Chapter 99. Forced into a corner, Little Green hardened its heart and viciously bit Xiao Chen. Then, using this opportunity, Little Green fled far away from Xiao Chen's grasp. It looked at Xiao Chen as if it was facing a great enemy, and its mouth continuously roared as if it was cursing Xiao Chen. "Little guy, you actually dared to bite me. All right, let's see how I'll deal with you when I catch you," Xiao Chen said angrily as he looked at Little Green with a small wound on his finger. Then, a man and a snake began to chase each other in the cave. At first, Xiao Chen's heart was filled with anger, but as time passed, his anger gradually turned into helplessness. This was because Little Green was really too difficult to catch. It was as slippery as a loach. Unable to catch it, Xiao Chen had no choice but to give up in the end. After a series of cajoling and cheating, Xiao Chen finally used all the spirit stones he had as the price to exchange for Little Green's essence blood. His heart was bleeding. A total of 50,000 low-grade spirit stones. This was all he had, and now he could only give it to Little Green. Looking at Little Green's happy face as it swallowed the spirit stones, Xiao Chen looked at the essence blood in his hand and thought fiercely, "If this essence blood is not domineering, I will have suffered a great loss." Although Xiao Chen was unable to ascertain the exact state of Little Green's essence blood, he still chose to believe in Chen Ling, ignoring Little Green, who was gobbling up spirit stones. Xiao Chen swallowed Little Green's essence blood in one gulp and then began to refine it according to the requirements of the secret beast transformation technique. What made Xiao Chen feel strange was that according to the beastification secret technique, refining the essence blood of a demonic beast would take at most a few days. However, after 3 days, Xiao Chen had only refined 1/5 of the essence blood. Little Green's essence blood was extremely difficult to refine. Now, they had already hidden here for 3 days, and Chen Ling's injuries had already healed. It was obvious that there was no more time for Xiao Chen to refine. The two of them had to break through the encirclement as soon as possible. Otherwise, people from various factions would find this place sooner or later. At that time, it would be like catching a turtle in a jar. He had no choice but to temporarily give up on refining Little Qing's blood essence. They began to discuss the escape route. According to what Chen Ling had said, it was almost impossible to leave the 10,000 Beast Mountain range from the front. In order to capture him, all the major forces in the Eastern Sun region had mobilized. Even the core elders of the Dao Querying Realm had participated in the hunt. Therefore, it was impossible for him to break through the encirclement from the front. Therefore, there was only one way, which was to go deep into the All-Beast Mountain range. In other words, he had to pass through the All-Beast Mountain range and head to the Central Divine Domain. As long as he reached the Central Plains, he would be safe. Crossing the All-Beast Mountain range? If anyone heard their conversation, they would definitely curse them for being crazy. Even Dao validation experts wouldn't dare to cross the All-Beast Mountain range. The two of them, who were only at the Mystic Aeon realm, actually dared to cross the All-Beast Mountain range. If this wasn't crazy, then what was? What was even more unacceptable was that, after some discussion, the two of them actually agreed to this method. They decided to pass through the All-Beast Mountain range and head to the Central Divine Domain. Lunatics, absolute lunatic. Of course, the two of them had no choice. Compared to the experts of the major forces, passing through the All-Beast Mountain range seemed stupid, but it was also the only way. In a situation of certain death, the two of them had to fight for a slim chance of survival. After making the decision, the two of them immediately began to move. They had already been delayed for 3 days, and this place was probably not safe anymore. They had to leave this place before they were discovered and head straight for the depths of the All-Beast Mountain range. "Little Qing, let's go," Xiao Chen called out to Little Qing, who was sleeping soundly. Hearing Xiao Chen's voice, Little Qing sleepily opened her eyes and then reluctantly wrapped herself around Xiao Chen's body. Xiao Chen then walked out of the cave. Following behind Xiao Chen, Chen Ling suddenly said, "Xiao Chen, why did you come?" He was in danger, and even the former sect, the Blood Demon Palace, had chosen to capture him because they coveted his inheritance. At this time, Xiao Chun had appeared and chosen to wade into this muddy water with him without hesitation. Chen Ling was touched. Hearing his words, Xiao Chun turned around and said with a serious expression, "I don't have many friends. If you want me to give a reason, it's because we are brothers. If a brother is in trouble and I'm not there, what will you do?" Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Chen Ling was stunned. "Because we are brothers." This sentence kept ringing in his ears. Whether it was in his previous life or in this life, Xiao Chun was the first person to say this to him. Looking at Xiao Chen, tears gathered in his eyes. Seeing that Chen Ling was about to burst into tears, Xiao Chen punched Chen Ling's chest and scolded jokingly. F***ck, are you going to cry now? Haha, the famous heavenly blade Chen Ling of the Eastern Sun region is actually crying. Scram, who's crying? I'm just squinting my eyes because of the sand. After being teased by Xiao Chen, Chen Ling held back his tears and replied without showing any weakness. The two of them played for a while. Finally, the smile on Xiao Chen's face disappeared and his eyes flashed with determination. He looked out of the cave and said, "Let's go. Today, we brothers will enter the dragon's lair." "Okay." Hearing Xiao Chen's words, the smile on Chen Ling's face slowly disappeared and he nodded slightly. Then, the two of them slowly walked out of the cave. Coincidentally, just as the two of them walked out of the cave, a group of inner disciples of the 10,000 Immortals Tower happened to walk over. The two sides met and looked at each other. For a moment, the leader of the 10,000 Immortals Tower was happy at first, then he said in surprise, "Xiao Chen? Why are you here?" Looking at the group of 10,000 Immortals Tower disciples, there were a total of 8 people. Xiao Chen sneered and said, "Me? If I say that I happened to pass by, would you believe me?" "Xiao Chen, no matter why you are here, I advise you to leave quickly. Although you are one of the 10 great prided kings, this matter is already out of your control. Leave Chen Ling behind and you can leave. Don't make things difficult for yourself." After hearing Xiao Chen's reply, the leader of the 10,000 Immortals Tower disciples coldly said. Knowing Xiao Chen's identity, he did not choose to attack immediately. However, just because they did not attack, it did not mean that Xiao Chen would not attack. Currently, the entire outer area of the 10,000 Beast Mountain Range was filled with experts searching for Chen Ling. If this dragged on, it would be even more difficult for him to escape. Withdrawing his smile, Xiao Chen unsheathed his Scarlet Heaven sword and coldly laughed. "Scram! Why are you spouting so much nonsense when you want to kill my brother? Die." Following his words, Xiao Chen took the initiative to attack, with Chen Ling following closely behind. The two of them took the initiative to attack. Facing the 8 inner disciples of the 10,000 Immortals Tower, Xiao Chen and Chen Ling used their killing moves from the start, wanting to end the battle in the shortest time possible. During this time, Little Qing did not stay idle. Although Little Qing was usually a glutton, her battle strength was absolutely incomparably powerful, and was not much weaker than Xiao Chen. Please add recommend reward. Chapter 100. The two of them and the snake took the initiative to attack. Regardless of whether it was Xiao Chen or Chen Ling, their battle prowess was absolutely invincible among those of the same level. Moreover, Chen Ling had now awakened the memories of his previous life, and his battle prowess had increased by quite a bit. He was no longer weaker than Xiao Chen, and this was because Chen Ling's cultivation had not recovered, and he was still unable to use many of his technique. The 8 inner disciples were quickly killed by Xiao Chen and the others. After killing the 8 inner disciples, the 2 men and the snake didn't stop. They continued moving towards the depths of the Wan Shou mountain range. It was impossible to break through the encirclement from the front. Even if they managed to escape from the Wan Shou mountain range, so what? As long as they were in the Dongyang region, Chen Ling would be chased by all the influential group. The best way was to go to the central region. There was still a long way to go from there to the depths of the Wanshou mountain range. They had to be careful of many strong cultivators. They could deal with ordinary inner disciples, but if they encountered celestial beings or querying path cultivators, they wouldn't be able to survive. Therefore, they had to be very careful. Therefore, the two men and the snake didn't move very fast. Along the way, Shao Chen and Yi Futian evaded the experts of many forces. Even so, Shao Chen and Yi Futian were besieged several times over the past 3 days. The only thing worth rejoicing over was that the two of them had narrowly escaped death each time. They had been on the road for 3 days, but on this day, Shao Chen and the others were surrounded again. The leader of the group was Mu Qing, one of the 5 hidden dragons of the Dongyang region. There were a total of 5 disciples of the myriad immortal tower. Apart from Mu Qing, there were 4 inner disciples of the myriad immortal tower blocking Shao Chen's path. When Mu Qing saw Shao Chen, extreme killing intent burst out from her eyes and she shouted coldly, "Shao Chen, it's you again." Her hatred for Shao Chen was off the charts. Facing Mu Qing's cold stare, Shao Chen sneered and said, "Mu Qing. Last time at the Qin clan, the leader of the Wanshou mountain range had taken Mu Qing away, and the ruler of the continent of the 9 clouds didn't want them to stay. Therefore, Shao Chen didn't kill Mu Qing. Now that they had met again, Shao Chen was filled with killing intent. Without saying anything, Shao Chen rushed towards Mu Qing. At the same time, Chen Ling followed closely behind, blocking the 4 inner disciples of the Wanshou mountain range for Shao Chen. Mu Qing had originally intended to stall for time, but she had already been defeated by Shao Chen again and again. To be honest, when facing Shao Chen, Mu Qing had a trace of fear in her heart. Unfortunately, Shao Chen didn't give Mu Qing any chance to delay. Since they had encountered each other here, he naturally had to deal with them directly. How could he let Mu Qing delay until the experts of the myriad immortal tower arrived? Mu Qing lashed out with the Red Cloud sword in hand. Mu Qing dared not take Shao Chen's attack head-on and chose to evade instead. Mu Qing's fear of Shao Chen was completely revealed in just one encounter. She didn't even have the courage to face him head-on. She only had one thought in her mind, and that was to drag things out until the experts of the myriad immortal tower arrived. At that time, Shao Chen would naturally be nothing to worry about. Mu Qing dodged repeatedly, but even so, he was soon at a disadvantage. Back in the 100 Spirits graveyard, Shao Chen defeated him with a single sword strike. Now, Mu Qing was even more afraid of Shao Chen. "Mu Qing, I've given you a chance since the 100 Spirits graveyard. Unfortunately, you didn't cherish it. Today, the Myriad Beast Mountain Range will be the place where you die," Shao Chen said indifferently with a calm expression. As soon as he finished speaking, he performed the golden killing swordsmanship. A golden sword light flashed past. Mu Qing was in disbelief as the sword light slashed across his neck and his head flew into the air. Shao Chen killed Mu Qing with a single sword strike in just over 10 moves. Mu Qing probably didn't expect that his life would end in such a way. They were both geniuses, but as time passed and everyone grew, Mu Qing was gradually pulled apart by Shao Chen. Now, Mu Qing was no longer a threat to Shao Chen. Killing him was a piece of cake. After killing Mu Qing with a single sword strike, Chen Ling also finished off the 4 disciples of the Wanshou mountain range. The two of them once again rushed forward. It had to be said that along the way, Shao Chen was also a little surprised by the number of people who surrounded Chen Ling. Almost all the forces in the Eastern Sun region had joined in. It seemed like they were certain that Chen Ling had the greatest inheritance of the 100 Spirits graveyard. To be honest, the greatest inheritance of the 100 Spirits graveyard was something that even the forces in the Middle-earth Divine region would be tempted by. They were careful along the way and had already traveled for 7 days. They were only 1 day away from the core area of the Myriad Beast mountain range. However, Shao Chen and Chen Ling had no choice but to stop because in 7 days, Xiao Chen's little Qing's bloodline was about to be completely refined. They were only one step away from completely refining little Qing's bloodline. At this critical moment, Xiao Chen obviously couldn't continue on their journey. They had no choice but to find a secluded place to stop. Chen Ling guarded Xiao Chen while Xiao Chen did his best to refine little Qing's bloodline. He used all his strength to refine little Qing's bloodline in his body. The power of the bloodline constantly fused with Xiao Chen's flesh and blood. For a moment, Xiao Chen seemed to hear the roars of a demon beast. It was the first time Xiao Chen had heard such a roar. It was different from the roars of other demon beasts. It was as if the mountains and rivers would collapse under the roar. 2 hours, 4 hours, and 6 hours later, Xiao Chen was finally able to completely refine the power of little Qing's bloodline. As such, Xiao Chen had basically mastered the secret method of shapeshifting. With just a thought, Xiao Chen would be able to transform into a beast like Chen Man had done back then, and his combat prowess would be greatly enhanced. Both of them slowly opened their eyes. They had finally succeeded. They could not wait to test out the strength of little Qing's bloodline. However, such thoughts only flashed through their minds for a moment. They had already wasted 6 hours of time. Before entering the core area of the Myriad Beast Mountain Range, the two of them could not afford to be careless. If they were caught by a Heaven Tier or Dao Querying Realm expert, it would be difficult for them to escape. Without much hesitation, they saw that Xiao Chen had woken up. The two of them and the snake prepared to continue on their journey. However, at this moment, a cold laugh suddenly sounded. They saw a Blood Demon Palace deacon striding over from afar. He shouted from afar, "Chen Ling, come back with me." He was a deacon of the Blood Demon Hall with an Earth Mirror cultivation base. Xiao Chen and Chen Ling's expressions turned grave when they saw this person. Along the way, the two of them had deliberately avoided the experts of the various major forces. Who would have thought that they would be blocked by an Earth Mirror deacon here? Please add recommend reward. Chapter 101. With a few flashes, he arrived before Xiao Chen and Chen Ling. Naturally, Chen Ling knew the identity of this Blood Demon Palace attendant. He was an inner attendant of the Blood Demon Palace. Additionally, he was one of the strongest people within the Blood Demon Palace, possessing a cultivation base at the perfect Earth Mirror stage. Xiao Chen and Chen Ling were both at the Minor Profound Aeon stage. A Minor Profound Aeon stage cultivator against a perfect Earth Mirror stage cultivator. Anyone could see that they had no chance of winning. However, Chen Ling's expression only changed slightly in the beginning. Soon, he recovered. It was as though he had a way to deal with this person. Xiao Chen, this matter has nothing to do with you. Obediently withdraw from the All-Beast Mountain Range, and we will not stop you. Otherwise, there are many Yao beasts within the All-Beast Mountain Range. If you die to a Yao beast, even if 9 Firmaments Palace asks about it, we will have an excuse. The attendant's gaze fell upon Xiao Chen, the threat in his words undisguised. At present, the East Sword Pavilion had become 9 Firmaments Palace's heavenly sword peak. Many forces within the Eastern Sun region knew about this. Thus, no one would dare to openly attack Xiao Chen. However, if Xiao Chen were to die to a Yao beast, what could 9 Firmaments Palace say? Hearing the attendant's words, before Xiao Chen could say anything, Chen Ling, who was beside him, spoke up first. Xiao Chen, do you want to test Xiao Qing's bloodline power? The two of them understood each other very well. Hearing Chen Ling's words, Xiao Chen immediately understood what he meant. Beast transformation. Chen Ling's meaning was clear. If he wanted to deal with this attendant, he would have to utilize the secret beast transformation technique. Without hesitation, after nodding slightly, Xiao Chen directly used the beast transformation mystic method. In an instant, the bloodline power in his body became violent, and Xiao Chen's aura began to rise continuously. At the same time, around Xiao Chen, a 2-meter-long dragon-shaped phantom condensed by his own spiritual power slowly emerged, constantly circling around Xiao Chen. Although the cyan dragon's silhouette looked very ethereal, it was indeed a dragon. It circled around Xiao Chen as if it was protecting Xiao Chen. Under the encirclement of the cyan dragon's silhouette, Xiao Chen's aura reached a terrifying level. It was no weaker than the Earth Mirror's deacon in front of him. The deacon's expression changed slightly. He didn't know what kind of secret technique Xiao Chen had used, but Xiao Chen's cultivation had actually risen from the initial profound Aeon realm to the consummate Earth-clear realm. Xiao Chen's cultivation had risen by more than an entire realm. He was horrified. How could this be? What kind of secret technique in the world could allow someone to raise their cultivation by more than one major realm? This was simply beyond the deacon's understanding. Not only him, but even Xiao Chen was filled with astonishment. This was indeed too exaggerated. The same secret technique, but the difference between him and Xiao Chen was like the difference between heaven and earth. The source of all this was probably the bloodline power from different demonic beasts. Xiao Chen used Little Qing's bloodline power to cultivate the beast transformation mystic method, and it could raise his cultivation by more than an entire realm. Just how powerful was Little Qing's bloodline power? Of course, Xiao Chen didn't know that because his cultivation was still too low, he couldn't withstand more bloodline power. Otherwise, the power of Little Qing's bloodline power would be far more powerful than this. Feeling an enormous power that he had never felt before filling his body, Xiao Chen was confident that with his current state, he could definitely kill this Blood Demon Hall deacon. With his confidence greatly boosted, Chen Ling said at the same time, "Xiao Chen, you don't have much time. Don't hold back and finish him off." He didn't explain much and only told Xiao Chen not to waste time. After hearing Chen Ling's words, although he was full of doubts, Xiao Chen still chose to listen to him. He took a step forward, unsheathed the Scarlet Heaven sword, and attacked the Blood Demon Hall deacon before him. Xiao Chen didn't hold back at all. Along with Xiao Chen's attack, the green dragon shadow that coiled around Xiao Chen let out a loud dragon roar. Seeing that Xiao Chen was coming right at him, the deacon did not dare to be careless at all. He summoned his earth weapon and shouted coldly at Xiao Chen. As long as I delay you, the strong ones will arrive. By then, no matter how heaven-defying you are, you can only surrender obediently. Xiao Chen, there's a path to heaven, but you chose to barge into hell. You asked for it. Facing the domineering Xiao Chen, the deacon no longer fantasized about anything else. He only wanted to stall for time and wait for the strong ones in the Sky Realm or Dao-querying Realm to arrive. Wielding a long saber, the two of them immediately clashed. Dust flew everywhere as the saber and sword clashed. The terrifying pressure forced Chen Ling and Little Qing to retreat. Remembering Chen Ling's advice, Xiao Chen didn't hold back at all. After all, his current strength was brought about by the beast transformation secret technique. If the battle dragged on for too long, the side effects of the secret technique would take effect, and he would no longer have the strength to fight. Golden Kill Sword Technique, Red Flame Sword Technique, and various other sword techniques emerged. Xiao Chen only had one goal, and that was to finish off the Blood Demon Palace Deacon in the shortest time possible. Xiao Chen wanted to end this battle in the shortest time possible, even if he was injured in exchange for his life. As a result, the deacon naturally fell into a disadvantageous position. He didn't dare to risk his life against Xiao Chen. Of course, there was no reason for him to risk his life against Xiao Chen. No matter how you looked at it, he could afford to stall for time, but Xiao Chen couldn't. He chose to defend and dodge from beginning to end. However, with the support of the Beast Transformation secret technique, Xiao Chen's combat strength was too strong. Especially the green dragon shadow that circled Xiao Chen, it was even more difficult for the deacon to deal with. He originally thought that it was just a dragon-shaped shadow, but who would have thought that the dragon shadow actually had the ability to attack? The sharp dragon claws had already left several bloody wounds on the deacon's body. Some of the wounds were so deep that his bones could be seen. It was as if he was fighting 1 against 2. Not only did he have to face Xiao Chen, he also had to be careful of the green dragon's shadow at all times. Under such circumstances, the deacon naturally couldn't hold on for too long. In less than 100 breaths of time, the deacon already had the thought of retreating. He wasn't Xiao Chen's match, and it was even difficult for him to stall for time. If the battle continued, he would probably die here. With the thought of retreating in his heart, the deacon was straightforward. With a flash, he directly retreated to the back. Seeing this, Xiao Chen prepared to chase after him. However, after just a few dozen meters, an intense pain instantly engulfed Xiao Chen's entire body. The green dragon's shadow slowly dissipated, and Xiao Chen directly fell to the ground in pain. After struggling for a while, he fell unconscious. 120 breaths of time. Is his cultivation still too weak? He can't withstand the power of the Dragon Clan's bloodline. In the next second, Chun Ling arrived in front of Xiao Chen and carried the unconscious Xiao Chen on his back. He sighed softly, and then rushed forward in a flash. As for little Qing, she followed closely behind. Please collect recommend reward. Chapter 102. Xiao Chen was completely unable to withstand the power of little Qing's bloodline. He only lasted for 120 breaths before he fell into a coma. If the deacon of the Blood Demon Palace was present at this moment, he would probably be so angry that he would vomit blood. He did not need to do much. As long as he could hold on for 3 more breaths, Xiao Chen would no longer be able to fight. Unfortunately, he was scared out of his wits and ran away. Carrying Xiao Chen on his back, Chun Ling and Little Green dealt with all the encirclements they encountered along the way. However, the closer they got to the core area, the fewer people there were. They only needed another 4 hours to enter the core area of the 10,000 Beast Mountain Range. As long as they escaped there, even Dao Confirmation Realm experts would not dare to enter easily because there were Beast Kings that could transform. However, just as Chun Ling was running, the major forces that entered the 10,000 Beast Mountain Range also knew that they were escaping to the depths of the 10,000 Beast Mountain Range. In an instant, the big shots of the 10,000 Immortals House, Blood Demon Palace, Leshan Prefecture, and Fire Cloud Sect issued orders at the same time, asking everyone to rush to the depths of the 10,000 Beast Mountain Range. They swore to stop Chun Ling outside the core area and not let him enter. His whereabouts could be said to have been exposed. However, in this final stretch, Chun Ling did not have the time to hide. Now, he only needed to rush into the core area in one breath. Then, he could temporarily relax. As for the powerful monsters in the core area, he could only take one step at a time. Charging all the way, but following the orders of the big shots, Chun Ling encountered several encirclements in the following period of time. There's a cliff in the west. Force them to the west. With the command of a Heaven-tier elite, the people of the various major forces temporarily joined forces, wanting to force Chun Ling to the west. That was because there was a cliff there that separated the outer region from the core region. As long as they could force them there, Chun Ling would definitely have no chance of escaping. With the command of a Heaven Realm expert, the people of the major forces did not fight to the death with Chun Ling. They only blindly forced Chun Ling to the west cliff. There was no need to capture Chun Ling. Anyway, when the time came, there would be experts coming. These were not things they should be concerned about. Chun Ling had never been so deep into the 10,000 Beast Mountain Range before, so he didn't know their intentions. Only when Chun Ling arrived in front of the western cliff did he understand their intentions. The bottomless cliff was like a natural moat between the outer region and the core region. If they wanted to pass through this place, they would have to cross this heavenly tribulation. However, they were only at the Mystic Yuan stage and could not cross this cliff at all. Chun Ling had been forced into a dead end. Standing at the edge of the cliff, Chun Ling looked at the disciples from the various forces who were crowding over. No Dao Querying Realm expert had appeared yet. Moreover, because Chun Ling had been forced into a dead end, the crowd was not in a hurry. After all, to them, he could not escape. Chunling, just give up. You have no way out, Chunling, come to the Leshan Prefecture. I can guarantee you that the Leshan Prefecture will not harm you. Nonsense. Chunling is a disciple of the Blood Demon Hall. He should follow me back to the Blood Demon Hall. The crowd spoke one after another. They were already arguing about the ownership of Chunling. One had to know that the reason why they had surrounded Chunling with such great fanfare was because of the ancient inheritance on Chunling. Now that they were about to succeed, they naturally would not let Chunling fall into the hands of other forces. The crowd was arguing endlessly. At this time, Chunling had already retreated to the edge of the cliff with Xiao Chen on his back. If he took another step back, he would fall off the cliff and shatter into pieces. Chunling's eyes emitted rays of cold light as he looked at the crowd. His mind was rapidly thinking of a way to escape. There was no way out. Once the Heaven Realm and Tao Querying Realm experts of the major forces arrived, there would really be no way out. He could not think of a way to escape. At this time, the unconscious Xiao Chen slowly opened his eyes and said to Chunling in a weak voice, "Jump. There is still a chance of survival if you jump down. If you are caught by them, you will die without a doubt. Even if you tell them the truth, they will not let you live." Xiao Chen had already woken up just now. It was just that his body was weak, and he could not even open his eyes. However, Xiao Chen clearly heard the conversation between the crowd and understood the current situation. Therefore, when Xiao Chen opened his mouth, he directly asked Chunling to jump off the cliff. This was the only way out. Since he would die either way, he might as well jump down. Perhaps a miracle would appear? One had to know that if Chunling was caught by the people of the major forces, he would definitely not have a way out. Even if Chunling told them that he was the reincarnation of an ancient almighty, the people of the major forces would not let Chunling go. Since he had already offended them, they naturally would not give Chunling a chance to take revenge. This was something that anyone would do. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Chunling exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and said, "Brother, actually, there is no need for you to stop. Even if I want to leave now, do you think they will agree? Enough nonsense. Let's jump together." Knowing what Chunling wanted to say, Xiao Chen immediately interrupted him the moment he opened his mouth. It was already impossible for him to escape. At this time, even if Xiao Chen was willing to leave, the people of the major forces would not allow it. Although they would not dare to kill him openly, this was the All-Beast mountain range. When the time came, they could say that he died in the mouth of a demon beast. What could 9 Firmaments Palace say? Moreover, even if he could leave, Xiao Chen could not leave Chunling behind. If he could, Xiao Chen would not have come in the first place. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Chunling smiled bitterly. However, a look of determination quickly flashed across his eyes. He slowly said to Xiao Chen, "Let's go all out. Son of a bitch, I don't believe that we brothers will be so unlucky." After saying that, Chunling fell backwards, bringing Xiao Chen and little Qing with him as he jumped down the cliff. The people from the major forces, who were originally arguing about who Chunling belonged to, were all dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They had assumed that Chunling had no way out. Who would have thought that Chunling would choose to jump down the cliff? The cliff was at least 10,000 zhang high. It was so deep that they could not see the bottom. They all rushed to the edge of the cliff to look down. However, Xiao Chen and little Qing were no longer there. Damn it, these 2 lunatics! Many people cursed angrily. Just as everyone was cursing, the Sky Human Stage and Tao Querying Stage experts from the major forces rushed over. When they heard that Chunling and Xiao Chen had chosen to jump down the cliff, their faces turned ashen. Subsequently, the Tao Querying Stage experts personally entered the bottom of the cliff to find the 2 of them. Unfortunately, the cliff was very strange. Even Tao Querying Stage experts had no way of entering the bottom of the cliff. After working hard for so long, they still could not find Chunling. The group of Tao querying stage experts burned with anger. It was also at this moment that a terrifying aura appeared. Song Xian's figure appeared in the sky. The moment he appeared, he shouted coldly at everyone present. "Where is my disciple, Shao Chen? Please collect, recommend, reward." Chapter 103. Song Xian appeared and his aura soared into the sky without holding back. After knowing that Shao Chen had come to rescue Chen Ling, Song Xian had rushed over immediately. However, he was still a step too late. Song Xian's cultivation had already reached the half-step Tao Gate realm. Everyone's expression changed when they saw Song Xian's aura. They couldn't help but glance at the bottomless abyss. Shao Chen and Chen Ling had jumped into the abyss together. However, no one dared to speak in front of Song Xian for fear of angering him. No one answered. Song Xian casually grabbed a middle-aged man with earth mirror cultivation into the air. He looked coldly at the man and asked, "Speak, where is my disciple, Shao Chen?" He jumped down. The middle-aged man didn't dare to lie in the face of Song Xian's questioning. He immediately answered Song Xian's question truthfully. "Jump down?" Song Xian's expression changed when he heard the man's answer. He ignored him and tossed him aside. The man fell heavily and immediately fainted from his serious injuries. In a flash, he charged into the bottomless abyss. However, like the group of Tao querying realm experts before him, Song Xian was unable to reach the bottom of the abyss. However, after some investigation, Song Xian discovered that there were many ancient seals in this bottomless abyss. It was these seals that prevented him from reaching the bottom of the abyss. Returning without success and unable to confirm Shao Chen's fate, Song Xian returned to the edge of the abyss. Looking at the cultivators present, the anger in his eyes burned brighter and brighter. "If anything happens to my disciple, all of you will die today." His killing intent was already overflowing. Upon hearing Song Xian's words, the expressions of everyone present changed slightly. However, at this moment, the sect master of the Fire Cloud sect, the Myriad Immortal Tower, the Leshan Prefecture and the Hall Master of the Blood Demon Hall appeared at the same time and spoke to Song Xian one after another. "Song Xian, Shao Chen asked for it. You can't blame others." "That's right. Even if your East Sword Pavilion is now 9 Cloud Palace's Heavenly Sword Peak, you can't be arrogant. 9 Cloud Palace isn't the only profound sky continent. Don't treat the other rulers as heir." The four of them spoke one after another. Anyone could tell that Song Xian was on the verge of exploding. If he was allowed to attack, at least half of the people present would die. That was why the four of them stepped forward to stop him. However, Song Xian completely ignored their words. One day, above the bottomless abyss, Song Xian single-handedly fought the sect masters of the 4 great sections. Relying on his half-step Tao Gate cultivation, Song Xian fought against 4 great perfect Tao validation experts. After a fierce battle, both sides suffered heavy losses. It would be very difficult for Song Xian to take down the 4 sect masters in a 1 versus 4 situation. Moreover, Shao Chen's fate was still unknown. The best thing to do now was to return to 9 Cloud Palace and ask the Tao Transformations experts to break the seal of the bottomless abyss and rescue Shao Chen. Thinking of this, Song Xian and the 4 great sect masters stopped at the same time. But before leaving, Song Xian coldly shouted to everyone present, "If anything happens to my disciple Shao Chen, this old man will not let this matter go." Song Xian left after saying that. He had to hurry to 9 Cloud Palace and ask the Tao Transformation experts to break the seal. After Song Xian left, the 4 great sect masters went into the abyss and tried to break the seal. However, they didn't succeed either. In the end, except for a small number of people who refused to give up and continued to wait here, the rest returned to their sects and families. 3 days passed, but there was still no sign of Shao Chen and Chen Ling. The major forces thought that the 2 of them must be dead and chose to leave the 1000 Beast Mountain range. At the same time, at the bottom of the abyss, a rapid underground river surged. Judging from its direction, it seemed to flow directly into the depths of the Thousand Beast mountain range. At this time, downstream of the river, Xiao Chen, Chun Ling, and Little Qing were unconscious. Their bodies were washed to the shore by the river. 3 days had passed. Xiao Chen coughed lightly and then slowly opened his eyes. Xiao Chen only remembered that the 3 of them jumped off the cliff. He couldn't remember what happened after that. He shook his dizzy head. When he saw Chun Ling and Little Qing, Xiao Chen quickly went to them. After checking and confirming that they were still alive, Xiao Chen breathed a sigh of relief. He took out healing pills from his storage ring and fed them to the 2 of them. After that, Xiao Chen sat down cross-legged and healed himself while waiting for the 2 of them to wake up. Another day passed and Chun Ling and Little Qing woke up. After knowing that they were still alive, the 2 of them were overjoyed. Where is this place? We should be in the depths of the Thousand Beast mountain range, right? They didn't act rashly. After healing their injuries, the 3 of them prepared to move out. However, before that, they had to figure out where they were. Xiao Chen said. Hearing this, Chun Ling said, that should be the case. This river probably flows from the cliff to here. We were brought here by the river. We should be in the depths of the Thousand Life mountain range. They couldn't pinpoint exactly where they were. However, after some investigation, Xiao Chen found that the 3 of them were in a valley. It could also be called a basin. The area was huge, like a huge bowl embedded in the ground. There were tall mountains all around. If they wanted to leave this place, they had to find an exit. However, Xiao Chen and the others didn't know that there was only one exit to this valley. At this moment, at the only exit, there were at least a few hundred monster beasts gathered. These monster beasts were basically all young monster beasts. However, they were already rank 2 monster beasts, equivalent to human mysterious origin realm warriors. Moreover, in front of these young monster beasts, there were more than 10 terrifying rank 8 monster beasts. Rank 8 monster beasts were equivalent to human Dao transformation realm warriors. They were just 1 step away from becoming monster kings and could transform. Monster kings were the kings of all monster beasts that had already surpassed the Dao transformation realm. However, at this moment, in front of these rank 8 monster beasts, there were 3 middle-aged men standing in the air. The tyrannical aura emitted from their bodies was clearly different from that of humans. In other words, these 3 people were monster kings that could transform. There were 3 beast kings, more than 10 level 8 monsters, and hundreds of level 2 cubs. So many monsters had gathered here. They were all from the monster kingdom in the Thousand Beast mountain range. Today was the day for the cubs of the monster kingdom to train. The location of their trials was in the valley where Xiao Chen and the others were. It would last for a month. After the trials began, the entire valley would be sealed. Many young monster beasts would fight within. Only the last 100 young monster beasts would be able to pass this trial. Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 104. Hundreds of young beasts killing each other. This was the training method of the monster kingdom. Compared to humans, beasts were obviously more brutal and direct, and they worshipped strength more. In the human world, even if you were born a cripple, your parents would still choose to love you. However, it was different in the world of beasts. The weak beasts did not even have the right to survive and could only become food in the mouths of other beasts. The strong preyed on the weak. This was developed to the extreme in the world of beasts. If you were not strong enough, you deserved to become food in the stomach of others. Such a cruel law of survival may be difficult for humans to accept, but it was normal for beasts because they received such education from a young age. It was also because of this that beasts were much more brutal than humans. However, don't think that humans are good just because of this. Compared to demonic beasts, humans are actually not much less savage and tyrannical. Backstabbing, brothers killing each other, are these kinds of things rare in the human world? Or rather, were their methods better than beasts? In many cases, the methods of humans were much more brutal than beasts. However, Humans were good at using hypocritical appearances to deceive the world and themselves. On the other hand, beasts mostly followed their instincts. Accompanied by the roars of beasts, hundreds of young beasts rushed into the valley. Then, a layer of barrier rose at the entrance of the valley, completely sealing the valley. The beasts' roars shook the sky. Xiao Chun and the other two who were in the valley naturally heard it. Judging from these beasts' roars, the number of beasts was definitely not small. In an instant, the three of them who were looking for the exit stopped in their tracks. "This is—" Looking in the direction of the roars, Chen Ling whispered to himself. "I have a bad feeling." Hearing Chen Ling's words, Xiao Chun said. Xiao Chun did not know that the three of them had entered the training ground of the young beast. However, his intuition told him that something bad was about to happen. As soon as they entered the valley, the young beasts began to kill each other. Of course, some of them who were more intelligent did not join the battle directly. Instead, they chose to hide temporarily. After all, the rule was that as long as they could last for a month and survive the slaughter of the young beasts, there were no other rules. A chaotic battle broke out. Those weak cubs were killed as soon as they entered the valley. The weakest batch of cubs were eliminated as soon as they arrived. Following the entrance of many young beasts, the valley became lively. Xiao Chun and the other two inevitably encountered their first young beast, a level 2 fire-patterned leopard. It was known for its speed, and its bloodline was not bad. It could be considered a purebred bloodline among the leopard race. Normally, it would be very difficult to encounter one in the outskirts of the 10,000 Beast Mountain range. Upon seeing the fire rune leopard, Xiao Chun and the rest frowned. Chen Ling even said, "A cub." He did not expect to meet a young fire rune leopard here. One had to know that an adult fire rune leopard was at least a class 5 demonic beast, which was equivalent to a human Dao querying realm expert. Xiao Chun and the rest looked at the fire rune leopard, and the fire rune leopard naturally looked at Xiao Chun and the rest. The strength of a demonic beast was determined by the strength of its bloodline. Just like the talent of a human warrior, the stronger the bloodline, the higher the potential of the demonic beast. At the same time, the intelligence of the demonic beast would also be higher. Therefore, even though it was only class 2, the intelligence of the fire rune leopard was already very high. Meeting Xiao Chun and Chen Ling, as well as Little Green, which it had never seen before, the fire rune leopard was filled with doubts. Both parties were surprised, but this was not important. This was because when demonic beasts and humans met, they would usually fight to the death. Therefore, with a roar, the fire rune leopard took the initiative to attack, pouncing towards Xiao Chun and Chen Ling. *CK Chen Ling, get it? Seeing the fire rune leopard's attack, Xiao Chun naturally did not think too much and ordered Chen Ling. Then, the two of them attacked and engaged in a fierce battle with the fire rune leopard. A class 2 demonic beast, the same as Xiao Chun and Chen Ling. Logically speaking, it should not be too difficult to deal with this fire rune leopard. However, after a fierce battle, Xiao Chun realized that this fire rune leopard's combat power was simply heaven-defying. How should he put it? In human terms, this fire rune leopard should be considered a genius among the demonic beasts. It had the strength to be invincible among those of the same class, and could even kill those of a higher class. Previously, they had underestimated this fire rune leopard's combat power, but that was it. The two of them combined could completely crush this fire rune leopard. Just as Xiao Chun and Chen Ling were about to kill it, Little Green suddenly appeared in front of the fire rune leopard. The power of the blood in her body suddenly erupted, and in an instant, the fire rune leopard, who was originally overflowing with killing intent, was completely suppressed. This was the suppression from the blood. In front of Little Green, the fire rune leopard could not resist at all. It obediently crawled in front of Little Green. After that, Xiao Chun and Little Green interrogated the fire rune leopard, and the fire rune leopard continuously growled. Little Green could not understand what they were saying. After all, Class 2 demonic beasts could not speak human language, so they used beast language to converse. After that, Little Green came in front of Little Green and pointed its tail at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen and Chunling were able to understand the meaning of Little Green's expression. After Little Green's strokes, they finally understood what was going on. Both of them revealed a bitter smile. It seemed that they had entered a training ground for many young demonic beasts. According to the Fire Rune Leopard, this valley was a special training ground for young demonic beasts. Today was the start of the training, and many young demonic beasts had entered the valley. It was not that they did not know what was going on, but that they had somehow entered a training ground for young demonic beasts. Furthermore, according to the Fire Rune Leopard, only pure-blooded young demonic beasts could participate. Those young demonic beasts with mixed bloodlines did not even have the right to participate. In other words, this training ground for young demonic beasts was similar to the training ground for geniuses. Just like the 100 Spirits Graveyard. Yes, just like the 100 Spirits Graveyard. The only difference was that the participants had changed from human demonic beasts to demonic beast. Is this a competition between us and demonic beasts? Xiao Chen laughed helplessly and said self-deprecatingly. There's no other way. According to what it said, the entire valley has been sealed off, and there are 3 demonic beasts guarding the entrance. We can only last for a month, and then think of a way to leave. Compared to the demonic beasts, I'm more willing to face demonic beasts, Chunling said after hearing Xiao Chen's words. It was temporarily impossible to leave. Not to mention that the entire valley had been sealed off. Even if it wasn't, they would still have to pass through the 3 demonic beasts to leave. Compared to facing the demonic beasts, Xiao Chen and Chunling were more willing to stay here with the demonic beasts for a month. Seeing a lot of brothers' messages about the update, Windless won't reply to them one by one here. I hope brothers can understand. Returning to the main topic, the update is mainly in 2 aspects. The first is the update time. This book is currently updated 3 times a day at noon, 4 in the afternoon, and 8 in the evening. As for why they don't update together, Windless won't hide it from the brothers. Because updating separately can increase the exposure rate. The editor's request, so brothers, please understand. In addition, Windless didn't have much to say about the update speed. After all, writing a book definitely can't catch up with reading. It would take at least an hour for Windless to write a chapter of 2,000 words. If you encounter a writer's block, the time would be infinitely extended, so please forgive me. However, Windless can guarantee the update time. Even if something happens, Windless will set a time to upload in advance, so as long as the time is up, there will definitely be an update. This way, the brothers won't have to wait impatiently. This is the only thing Windless can guarantee, and he will never go back on his words. In addition, if there are any brothers who are out of books, you can go and take a look at Windless' old book God Emperor, Demon Emperor. It definitely won't disappoint you brothers. In addition, at the end of the day, this book is already ranked 5th on the mobile QQ new book rankings. All of this is inseparable from the brothers' support. Here, Windless has an immature opinion, but I don't know if it's appropriate to say it. Brothers, let's work hard, let's also go and get first place. Haha, the above is Windless' dream. Of course, the update is serious. Chapter 105. It was impossible to force their way into the territory guarded by the Beast King. Hence, Xiao Chen and Chunling could only stay in the valley for a month, until the end of the trial. They would then find a chance to leave. If they had to stay there for a month, it would mean that Xiao Chen and the others would have to face many geniuses of the Beast Clan. However, Xiao Chen did not panic. On the contrary, he was rather excited. Compared to the geniuses of the human clan, how strong would the geniuses of the Beast Clan be? Other than the prodigies from the Middle-earth Divine Realm, Xiao Chen had fought against the prodigies from the other 4 Divine Realms. Now that he had the chance to witness the prodigies from the Beast race, Xiao Chen could not help but feel excited. He glanced at the fire-rune leopard. At this moment, Little Green was lying lazily on top of the fire-rune leopard. Not only was the fire-rune leopard not angry, it even revealed a look of fear. It was becoming more and more interested in Little Green's identity. At the same level, a pure-blooded fire-rune leopard would not dare to be disrespectful to Little Green. From this, it could be seen that Little Green's bloodline was definitely superior to the fire-rune leopard's. In the world of beasts, bloodline determined everything. The nobler the bloodline, the higher the status. Unless the difference in strength between the two was huge, the one with the higher bloodline could completely suppress the other with the power of the bloodline. The fire-rune leopard had completely chosen to submit to Little Green. It was as if it was a great honor to be able to stay by Little Green's side. Without a choice, the fire-rune leopard naturally followed the group. However, what made Xiao Chen and Chen Ling speechless was that the fire-rune leopard was only respectful to Little Green and ignored the two of them. "Stupid leopard, one day I will cook you." Chen Ling was very unhappy with the fire-rune leopard's attitude. However, after thinking about it, both of them were humans. Beasts were naturally hostile towards humans. Since they could not leave the valley, they could only stroll around. As time passed, more and more young beasts in the valley were willing to follow Little Green. Basically, as long as the young beasts had personally experienced the power of Little Green's bloodline, they would definitely not leave. They would shamelessly follow Little Green. In this way, half a month had passed, and Little Qing was followed by more than 100 young beasts. These young beasts were the purest young beasts in the kingdom of demon beasts. Mixed-blood beasts were not qualified to come here. It had already become the king of these young beasts. Every day it would lead a large number of young beasts, patrolling the entire valley with a proud expression. In the blink of an eye, 20 days had passed. On this day, the few young beasts in the valley who did not submit to Little Green had gathered together. They were led by a second-rank wild lion to the place where Little Green and the others were. Wild lions were an extremely powerful tribe. At least in the heavenly Chen continent, they were considered the top bloodline of the beasts. The second-rank wild lion's identity was not simple in the beast kingdom. He was one of the 3 beast kings in the beast kingdom, the descendant of the Lion King. No matter if it was bloodline or identity, this wild lion was second only to Little Green in the entire valley. Of course, the gap between them was still huge. Today, this wild lion cub had led a group of demonic beasts here. It was obvious that it wanted to challenge Little Qing. Originally, with the power of Little Qing's bloodline, it could easily suppress the lion cub. However, after more than 20 days, Xiao Chen knew that the lion cub in front of him was recognized as the strongest in this trial. Therefore, Xiao Chen did not let Little Qing do anything. Instead, he wanted to personally test the lion cub. There are a total of 3 beast kings in the beast kingdom. The wild lion is the descendant of the Lion King. In human terms, the wild lion is equivalent to the 10 prides of the human clan. Xiao Chen thought to himself. He slowly walked in front of the wild lion and calmly said, "I will be your opponent." It could not speak the human language, but it could understand Xiao Chen's words. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, the wild lion's eyes revealed a hint of fierceness and it roared. Although it was still a cub, the wild lion's roar was already filled with the domineering aura of the lion clan. With a roar, the wild lion took the initiative to attack. Its sharp claws fiercely slapped at Xiao Chen. It had to be said that it was worthy of being the descendant of the Lion King. In the same realm, the fire leopard could not compare to the wild lion. No wonder it was unwilling to submit to Little Green. Facing the wild lion's attack, Xiao Chen unsheathed the Scarlet Heaven sword and did not choose to dodge. He raised the Jian-Yi sword and fiercely slashed at the wild lion's sharp claws. The powerful energy tore a crack in the ground, and this head-on collision was clearly evenly matched. Seeing this, the little lion put away the contempt in its heart. It was very smart, and at the same time, its intuition was very sharp. With just one exchange, it knew that the human in front of it was not weak. On the contrary, he was very strong. Without the slightest contempt, the wild lion let out a roar. Its body gradually emitted a blood-red light. Seeing this, Xiao Chen's eyes flashed with excitement. Bloodline ability. Some demonic beasts with high bloodline grades were born with bloodline ability, just like this little lion. It was using the bloodline ability of the Berserk lion clan, Berserk. This was the first time Xiao Chen had seen a monster's bloodline ability. He wanted to see it for himself. Immediately, he waved the Scarlet Heaven Sword in his hand and directly used the Golden Killing Sword technique. He took the initiative to attack the wild lion. Seeing this, the wild lion did not back down. The human and the lion immediately engaged in a fierce battle. It had to be said that after using Berserk, the wild lion's battle strength was greatly increased. Its eyes were scarlet, and its speed and strength had increased by a lot. Moreover, this was because it was still young. If it was allowed to grow up, the power of its bloodline would be completely awakened, and the power of Berserk would be even stronger. According to Xiao Chen's estimation, its strength was obviously higher than Gu Lei and Su Mu. It should be on par with the primordial age. The power of the bloodline was equivalent to a human's special constitution. After a fierce battle, Xiao Chen finally used the heavenly sword embryo and used the man and sword as one to defeat the wild lion. He heavily injured the wild lion with one strike, but did not take its life. After all, there was no enmity between them. He just wanted to see the strength of the Beast Clan's Heaven's Pride. It was not worthwhile to kill it. Secondly, the wild lion's identity was not ordinary. It was the descendant of the Lion Emperor. If he killed it, Xiao Chun and the other two would not be able to leave the All-Beast mountain range. Chapter 106. Xiao Qing did not kill the lion cub, but after the battle, Xiao Qing ruthlessly tortured the lion cub, causing it to lose its temper. In the end, it had no choice but to submit to Xiao Qing. Perhaps it was because the lion cub had injured Xiao Chen during the battle, but little Qing did not hold back at all. Xiao Chen was covered in wounds. In the end, he chose to submit. The lion cub fell into a deep sleep. It looked like it would need to rest for a few days. Since even the lion cub chose to surrender, the other cubs that came with it naturally chose to submit as well. In this way, all the cubs in the valley, except for those that were already dead, all of them submitted to Little Green. There were no more threats in the valley. In the next few days the trial would end. Xiao Chen also planned to make a breakthrough in his cultivation in these few days. Originally, Xiao Chen was already at the initial stage of the mysterious Yuan stage. In addition to this period of cultivation, as well as refining the blood essence of demonic beasts every day for the past 20 days, his strength had naturally increased. He had reached the limit of the initial stage of the mysterious Yuan stage, and was only a step away from the advanced stage. He planned to raise his cultivation to the advanced stage of the mysterious Yuan stage before leaving the ancient mountain. As for cultivation resources, he did not need to worry about it. Not to mention the many pills in his storage ring, just the blood essence of the cubs around him was enough for him to break through to the advanced stage of the mysterious Yuan stage. Human warriors could refine the blood essence of demonic beasts, and the blood essence of demonic beasts contained rich spiritual energy. Just like how demonic beasts could benefit from eating humans, humans could also benefit from refining the blood essence of demonic beasts. There was no need to worry about not having enough blood essence. He did not even need to take it himself. As long as he told Xiao Qing, there would naturally be cubs that would willingly give their blood essence to him. Xiao Chen planned to break through, and so did Chen Ling. After awakening the memories of his past life, his cultivation was not inferior to Xiao Chen's. No, it should be said that Xiao Chen was not inferior to Chen Ling. After all, as a reborn ancient almighty, Chen Ling's cultivation speed was naturally incomparable to that of ordinary people. However, Xiao Qin was still able to catch up to his cultivation speed. Just this point alone made Qin Ling admire Xiao Qin's talent. The two of them dug out 2 caves at the same time and chose to go into seclusion. Outside the cave, little Qing led a group of young beasts to stand guard. In the valley, Xiao Qin was living a very comfortable life. The 10,000 beast mountain range, which was extremely dangerous to others, had become a paradise because of little Qing. Xiao Qin began his cultivation retreat. On this day, Song Xian, who had rushed back to Nine Firmaments Palace to get reinforcements from the cliff where the two of them had fallen, finally arrived with a Dao King stage elder. Moreover, the elder that Song Xian had invited was no ordinary elder, but a chief elder of Holy Maiden Peak. It was common knowledge that Nine Firmaments Palace was divided into 9 peaks. The elders of each peak were divided into ordinary elders and chief elders. Ordinary elders had to be at least at the Dao transformation stage before they were qualified to become chief elders. As for chief elders, they had to be at the Dao King stage. The Dao King stage was the stage above the Dao transformation stage. Thus, Song Xian and the other two, as the peak lords of Heavenly Sword Peak, had to reach the Dao transformation stage as soon as possible. Those words were not without reason. The ordinary elders of the other peaks were all at the Dao transformation stage, while the peak lords of Heavenly Sword Peak had yet to reach the Dao transformation stage. Wouldn't that be a joke? The Dao transformation stage was the minimum requirement for Song Xian and the other two. Fortunately, the talents of Song Xian and the other two were quite high, otherwise they would not have been accepted as disciples by Song Feng. At present, with the support of Nine Firmaments Palace's vast resources, it was possible for them to break through to the Dao transformation stage or even the Dao King stage. Of course, that was all in the future. At this moment, the chief elder of Holy Maiden Peak had arrived. It was a beautiful middle-aged woman. Song Xian bowed politely to her and said, "Elder Qinfang, sorry to trouble you." Although Song Xian was now one of the 3 peak lords of Heavenly Sword Peak and had a higher status than Qinfang, Qinfang was a Dao King expert. He still had to be polite. Moreover, he still had to rely on her to break the seal at the bottom of the cliff and find Xiao Qin. Qinfang nodded slightly when she heard Song Xian's words. However, just as she was about to take action, a middle-aged man appeared out of thin air in front of them. The man had yellow hair and an incomparably sturdy body. He had a rough appearance and a tyrannical aura that did not belong to a human. Clearly, he was not a human, but a beast king. This beast king was one of the 3 beast kings that stood on guard at the entrance of the gorge. He'd rushed over as soon as he sensed that human Dao kings had entered the mountain range. At this moment, he stood before Qinfang and the Beast King as he shouted coldly, "People from Nine Firmaments Palace? What business do you have here?" Judging from Song Xian's and Qinfang's clothes, the Beast King immediately recognized them. The monster beast kingdom in the All-Beast mountain range and the 7 overlords of the Heavenly Qin mainland naturally had dealings with each other. Moreover, both sides had reached a consensus. Otherwise, why would the monster beast kingdom obediently stay in the All-Beast mountain range and not come out? Obviously, that was impossible. Both sides were not unfamiliar with each other. When she heard the Beast King's question, Qinfang frowned slightly and said, "A disciple of my Nine Firmaments Palace accidentally fell off the cliff. This king has specially come to rescue her. After saving her, we will naturally leave." Qinfang did not expect the Beast King of the Monster Beast Kingdom to discover her whereabouts so quickly. Now that she had attracted a Beast King before she even took action, Qinfang felt somewhat helpless. After all, if the Beast King did not agree, Qinfang could not forcefully take action. If that happened, she would be breaking the agreement between the 2 races. When the time came, things would blow up. Hearing Qinfang's words, Song Xian, who was beside her, also spoke up. "Back then, this old man's disciple fell off the cliff here. We are only here to rescue her. What does your rescue have to do with me? Don't forget the agreement between His Majesty the Beast King and your human overlord. You humans can enter the periphery of the All-Beast mountain range, but you humans are not allowed to enter the core area. Otherwise, you will die. Scram! Not giving Song Xian any face, she directly interrupted him. It was absolutely impossible for humans to break the restrictions in the canyon. Normally, it might be possible, but now was the time for the cub trial. How could the Beast King agree to Song Xian's and Chen Fang's request? Seeing the Beast King directly refuse, Chen Fang looked at Song Xian, indicating for him to make the decision. However, when the two of them looked at each other, the Beast King directly took action. In his opinion, he had already asked the two humans to leave. Since the two of them refused to leave, he had no choice but to take action. The Beast King took the lead and a terrifying aura instantly enveloped the area. Seeing this, Chen Fang's face sank. You're going too far. Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 107. The Beast King's overbearing attack naturally angered Chen Fang. As a Dao King realm expert, Chen Fang was a famous expert in the entire heavenly Chen continent. Although she looked like she was in her 30s, her true age was definitely a few hundred years old. The Beast King didn't even give her a chance to explain before attacking. Chen Fang naturally wouldn't agree. She gently pushed Song Xian over 10 miles away with a palm strike. Then, Chen Fang and the Beast King started fighting. The space where the two of them were fighting was directly sealed. This was a technique that could only be comprehended by those who had reached the Dao King realm. The power of the domain was released to form a domain of its own. It was an extremely powerful technique. If one's cultivation hadn't reached the Dao King realm, one wouldn't even have the chance to escape once trapped in the domain. When the domain was formed, the two Beast Kings fought fiercely. The terrifying shockwaves of the battle were sealed within the domain. Otherwise, if a trace of the shockwaves leaked out, everything around them would be destroyed in an instant. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged over 100 blows. The battle between Beast Kings could be described as shocking. Bloodline superpower rock scales. The Beast King was gradually angered. He took the initiative to use his bloodline superpower. His skin instantly turned into stone, as if he was covered with a layer of rock scales. Seeing the Beast King use his bloodline superpower, Chen Fang shouted coldly, "Saint Lotus Seal." Then, she slapped down with her hand. A huge lotus seal descended from the sky, fiercely suppressing the Beast King. The Saint Lotus Seal was an existence that surpassed the heaven-level martial skill. Its power was extremely great. Now that it was used by a Dao King realm expert, its power was even more indescribable. The fierce battle continued. After 2 hours, neither of them could do anything to the other. However, at this moment the second Beast King arrived. When she saw the second Beast King arrive, Chen Fang's face became a little solemn. She wasn't afraid of a one-on-one battle. However, it would be a little difficult to fight two Beast Kings together. It was no joke. Fortunately, the second Beast King did not choose to attack directly. Instead, it stopped the two of them from fighting. It then looked at Chen Fang and said, "Chen Fang, we haven't seen each other for 100 years, right?" The Beast King was a young man with black hair and a slender figure. He looked gentle and refined, not like a demonic beast at all, but more like a scholar. For it to be able to call out Chen Fang's name, it was clear that the two of them knew each other. Hearing the Beast King's words, the expression on Chen Fang's face gradually eased. She said, "Lingxi, today I want to save someone. This person is very important to our 9 Firmaments Palace. Even the Lord Sovereign has a whole new level of respect for him." The young Beast King's name was Lingxi. Hearing Chen Fang's words, Lingxi exhorted for a moment, then nodded and replied, "All right, but the two of you can only move around at the bottom of the cliff. Now, the cubs of my monster beast kingdom are training." Perhaps it was because they knew each other, but Lingxi agreed. However, the two of them could only move around at the bottom of the cliff and were not allowed to enter the All-Beast mountain range. This was the final compromise. Hearing Ling Shi's words, Chen Fang nodded. She knew that this was Ling Shi's bottom line. Having obtained the Beast King's agreement, the next step was simple. There was no need for Chen Fang to break the seal herself. Under the lead of Ling Shi and the other Beast King, the four of them entered the bottom of the cliff and began their search. After searching for an entire day and night, Song Xian had searched every inch of the bottom of the cliff. However, they were still unable to find Xiao Chen's whereabouts. Not even his corpse could be found. After failing to find Xiao Chen for an entire day and night, Ling Shi ordered them to leave. Chen Fang, it's almost time. Since we still haven't found him, he might have been eaten by other demonic beasts. Don't make things difficult for me. You all should leave. In this regard, Chen Fang almost believed that Xiao Chen should have been eaten by demonic beasts. Otherwise, it was impossible for there not to be a corpse left behind. She knew that Ling Shi had already given her enough face. If she continued to push her luck, she might attract more experts from the demonic beast kingdom. When that happened, things would become troublesome. Looking at Song Xian, Chen Fang sighed. Let's go. Let's go back first. Although he was extremely unwilling, Song Xian could only nod in agreement. In the end, the four of them returned to the top of the cliff. Before leaving, Chen Fang bowed to Ling Shi. Thank you. Come to Saintus Peak when you have time. Come to think of it, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Yes, we haven't seen each other for at least 100 years. When I'm done here, I'll go to Saintus Peak to look for you. At that time, I'll also visit my old friends, Ling Shi replied. That's a promise. I'll wait for you, Chen Fang said. With that, Chen Fang left with Song Xian, while Ling Shi and the other demonic beast king also disappeared. Unable to find Xiao Chen's whereabouts, Song Xian was extremely disappointed along the way. He was unwilling to believe that Xiao Chen was already dead, but the truth was right there. Unaware that Song Xian and Chen Fang had come to look for him, Xiao Chen's cultivation had finally broken through to the mystic profound stage after a day and night of closed-door cultivation. It could be said that it was a natural breakthrough, so there was no difficulty at all. After breaking through, Xiao Chen walked out of the cave. At the same time, Chen Ling had broken through to the mystic profound stage before Xiao Chen. He was currently lying on a tree trunk leisurely basking in the sun. Not bad. You're much faster than I thought, Chen Ling said with a smile when he saw Xiao Chen break through. Hearing this, Xiao Chen unhappily replied, I'm still slower than you. I don't need to comprehend my state of mind to break through, I only need to accumulate spiritual energy. As long as I accumulate enough spiritual energy, I can break through all the way until I reach the pinnacle of my previous life. This way, my cultivation is naturally faster. But you're different. You need to comprehend and improve your state of mind. But even so, you're only 2 hours behind me, and I'm only 2 hours ahead of you. You still have the cheek to say that? Chen Ling shook his head and laughed. As the reincarnation of an ancient almighty, Chen Ling's cultivation speed was very normal. It would be strange if it was slow. However, Xiao Chen was different. He relied on his own talent to catch up to Chen Ling. It was not an exaggeration to say that even in Chen Ling's previous life, he had never seen someone with talent like Xiao Chen. And Xiao Chen was only born in a small place like the heavenly Chen continent. He did not dare to imagine what Xiao Chen would be like if Xiao Chen was born in a better place. Sigh, this guy is a monster. Anyway, no matter where he was born, he will eventually become the most dazzling person. The heavenly Chen continent is like this, and so is my hometown. Chen Ling sighed in his heart. Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 108. Because of Xiao Chen, Chen Ling was reminded of his hometown. So many years had passed. His family, his father and mother, were they doing well? It's already been 1,500 years. Chen Ling muttered softly as he looked at the sky with a dazed expression. It had been 1,500 years since he had fallen in the heavenly Chun continent. His heart was filled with emotions. He had died with this place. Shao Chun came to Chun Ling's side and leaned lazily against the tree trunk. "What's wrong? Are you homesick?" "Yes, I wonder how my family is doing." Upon hearing Shao Chun's words, Chun Ling replied softly, "Don't worry, you will be able to go back one day. As long as you don't die, there will be hope. Even if you can't go back by yourself, I will accompany you." Shao Chun said, "Do you know where my house is?" "I don't know." "Then will you go back with me?" "Since you can't go back by yourself, I naturally have to go with you. Haven't you heard of the saying brothers work together to break gold? When the two of us have succeeded in our cultivation, I will go back with you." The two of them chatted casually. Upon hearing Shao Chun's words, Chun Ling was slightly taken aback. He looked at Shao Chun with a complicated gaze. At the same time, Little Green also ran over to join in the fun. She coiled around Shao Chun's body and constantly growled, as if saying that she wanted to go with him. Chun Ling silently looked at Shao Chun. After a while, he revealed a smile and said, "Do you know why I fell in the heavenly Chun continent?" This was the first time Chun Ling took the initiative to reveal his own matters to Shao Chun. This also showed that he trusted Shao Chun completely and treated Shao Chun as a brother. Therefore, there was nothing that he would hide from Shao Chun. According to Chun Ling, back then, he was hunted down and fled all the way to the heavenly Chun continent. He had fled for too long and too far, which resulted in him not being able to contact his family. In the end, he was surrounded by them in the heavenly Chun continent. After a fierce battle, Chun Ling was no match for them and was eventually killed. However, before he died, he separated a strand of his consciousness. That was how he was reborn today. If not, he would have turned into ashes. Chun Ling told his story to Shao Chun, but he still didn't say anything about his identity. Perhaps it was because he didn't want to say it. After all, with their current cultivation, it was impossible for Chun Ling and Shao Chun to return to his family. Since Chun Ling did not say anything, Shao Chun did not ask. He listened quietly. After a pause, Chun Ling continued, "Do you know why those people wanted to kill me?" "Why?" Shao Chun asked. "Because of Little Green?" "That's right. Aren't you curious about its identity? Let me tell you. Little Green is from the dragon race. Moreover, it is a pure-blooded dragon. Its bloodline is extremely pure. Even among the dragon race, it belongs to the top bloodline. Back then, I obtained the unborn Little Green by chance and escaped with it. Those people who chased after me were also because of Little Green, an unborn baby dragon. If I can obtain it and carefully nurture it after it hatches, it will definitely become a peerless divine dragon in the future. Any force that obtains it will be like a guardian deity. Little Green was from the dragon race, and its bloodline was extremely pure. Hearing this, Shao Chun was stunned. He didn't expect this little one to be a true dragon. In the heavenly Chun continent, dragons were simply legendary existences. Not to mention true dragons, there weren't even flood dragons. Chun Ling was shocked. He looked at Little Green with a myriad of emotions. If it weren't for Little Green, he wouldn't have fallen in the heavenly Chun continent. Listening to the conversation between the two, Little Qing had a helpless look on its face. It seemed to have understood something. After telling Shao Chun the truth, Chun Ling also told him how to escape. After all, the two of them were in the Thousand Beast mountain range. As humans, it was basically impossible to leave the Thousand Beast mountain range safely. But with Little Green around, it would be different. According to Chun Ling, Little Green's bloodline was enough to suppress any monster in the heavenly Chun continent. However, Little Green's cultivation was still too low. But even so, if Little Green were to negotiate with the King of Monster Beasts, he believed that the King of Monster Beasts would let the two of them go. After all, the Dragon Clan was a dominating existence in the world of monsters. There were only a few clans that could be compared to them. If a pure-blooded dragon clan was present, no monster would go against them. Many monsters were even willing to submit to the dragon clan. This was the dragon clan's innate emperor's aura. It was also because of this that many human emperors liked to use the dragon clan as a symbol of the royal family's prestige. Little Green was the bargaining chip for Shao Chun and Chun Ling to leave the Thousand Beast mountain range safely. Of course, all of this could only be confirmed after meeting the king of monster beasts. However, it seemed that there was no other way. Shao Chun didn't reject Chun Ling's idea. This was indeed the best way. After discussing for a while, the two of them naturally told Little Green how to negotiate with the king of monster beasts. Little Green nodded its head in response to their advice. It knew that this wasn't a joke, so Little Green listened very seriously. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Soon, the 1-month-long beast cub trials had ended. The entire valley opened up once again. At the same time, the 3 beast kings guarding the entrance entered the valley at the same time to check on the casualties of this trial. Along the way, the 3 beast kings found it strange that there seemed to be very few deaths in this trial. Less than 1/5 of the total number of cubs. In other words, these cubs basically didn't go on a killing spree during this 1 month. The 3 beast kings frowned slightly. Including Lingxi, the 3 beast kings felt that something was amiss. When they arrived before Shao Chun, Chun Ling, Little Green, and the cubs, the 3 beast kings were stunned. What's going on? 2 humans had sneaked into the beast cub trials, and the cubs were actually with them. In an instant, the 3 beast kings were somewhat puzzled. One of the beast kings even yelled angrily, "Humans, how did you sneak in? You're courting death." They didn't know how Shao Chun and Chun Ling managed to sneak in, but it wasn't important. Since the humans had entered the depths of the Thousand Beast mountain range, they should be killed immediately. This was the rule of the monster kingdom. Therefore, the Beast King immediately launched a palm strike, intending to kill Shao Chun and Chun Ling. The other 2 Beast Kings didn't stop the Beast King from killing the humans. But at this moment, Shao Chun yelled softly, "Little Green." Chapter 109. In the face of the 3 Beast Kings, Shao Chun didn't panic in the slightest. They had already come up with a plan beforehand. Therefore, as soon as Shao Chun let out a soft cry, Little Qing immediately released an extremely pure dragon's prestige. This was the prestige that belonged to the dragon race. Even though it was still weak on Little Qing, the purity of it left the 3 Beast Kings flabbergasted. As Beast Kings, they were naturally knowledgeable and knew about the dragon race from some records in the country of monsters. Now that they had personally experienced the dragon's prestige, even though they weren't directly suppressed by Little Qing's bloodline power due to their cultivation realms, the fear that came from the depths of their souls was so real. This is the dragon race's bloodline. Dragon. Gazing at Little Qing, who resembled a little green snake, one of the Beast Kings stared blankly at Little Qing. The dragon race was like an emperor in the world of monsters. Any true dragon was an absolute emperor above all beasts. In a place where the dragon race existed, all beasts would submit to the dragon race. This wasn't a joke, as it truly existed. The 3 Beast Kings instantly forgot about Shao Chun and Chun Ling. They only had eyes for Little Qing now. After a few moments of astonishment, the 3 Beast Kings returned to their senses. Then, Spirit Rhino spoke first. Hurry up and inform Sir Beast Emperor about this. The appearance of the dragon race in the All-Beast mountain range was definitely a huge matter for the country of monsters. Upon hearing Spirit Rhino's words, one of the Beast Kings vanished on the spot while the other 2 Beast Kings continued to look at Little Qing in reverence. This had nothing to do with cultivation realms or strength. It was completely innate reverence. One had to know that among the beast race, bloodline was above everything and one's status was determined from birth. The dragon race was born as an emperor and was destined to rule over all beasts. They didn't know how to treat this true dragon. After all, this was the first time Spirit Rhino and the other Beast Kings had met a dragon. They could only wait for the Beast Emperor to make the decision. They didn't have to wait for long, at most 15 minutes, before the three Beast Emperors appeared one after another. A middle-aged man, a beautiful woman, and a young man. These three people were the overlord of the 10,000 Beast Mountain Range, the Beast Emperor. The three Beast Emperors shifted their attention to Little Qing immediately. After a few moments, the middle-aged man exclaimed in astonishment, "True dragon! It's really the dragon race! The dragon race has actually arrived in the All-Beast Mountain Range." The middle-aged man who spoke was the Lion King, one of the three Beast Kings. He was also the father of the Mad Lion Cub. As a Beast King, he was actually so excited at this moment. It could be seen how much shock a true dragon brought to them. As soon as the Lion Emperor finished speaking, the beautiful woman continued, "The Dragon Clan has descended. Does this mean that there is finally hope for our monster beast nation to return to our homeland?" The woman was a spirit emperor among the three Beast Emperors. Her original body was a nine-tailed fox, and her bloodline was also extremely noble. As for the last young man, he was the Tiger Emperor, one of the three emperors. His original body was a thunder tiger, and his bloodline was not any weaker than the Spirit Emperor and the Lion Emperor. However, he did not say anything, and his eyes were fixed on Little Qing. The arrival of the three Beast Emperors was followed by the arrival of many experts from the Monster Beast Nation. In the entire Monster Beast Nation, the three Beast Emperors were fully deserving of the title of overlords. Their strength was comparable to the 7 human rulers. They controlled the entire Monster Beast Nation. Under the three of them were 18 Beast Sovereigns, whose strength was equivalent to a human Tao Sovereign. Below the 18 Beast Sovereigns were 68 Beast Kings, and below them were countless level 8 and level 7 monsters. Because of the appearance of the true dragon, almost all the experts of the Monster Beast Nation had rushed over. In less than half an hour, the entire training valley was filled with countless monsters. At the forefront were the three Beast Emperors, followed by the 18 Beast Sovereigns, and then the 68 Beast Kings. After them were the level 8 and level 7 monsters. As for the monsters below them, they could not even squeeze into the valley. All the monsters had gathered here. In the end, with the three Beast Emperors taking the lead, all the monsters bowed and knelt down in front of Little Qing. Looking at the scene in front of him, Xiao Chen was speechless. It seemed that he had underestimated the significance of the Dragon Clan to the monsters. When they saw Little Qing, even the three Beast Emperors were so respectful. After a series of respectful bows, the three Beast Emperors finally noticed Xiao Chen and Chen Ling beside Little Qing. They did not expect that there would be two humans here. Immediately, the Lion Emperor coldly shouted, "Two humans? Why are humans here? Kill them for me." Humans were not allowed to enter the depths of the 1,000 Beast Mountain Range. This was the agreement between the three Beast Emperors and the Supremes. Just as the Lion Emperor gave the order to kill Xiao Chen and Chen Ling, Little Qing let out an angry roar. Upon hearing Little Qing's angry roar, the Lion Emperor was slightly taken aback. He didn't expect these two humans to be Little Qing's friends. Besides, Little Qing had clearly stated that anyone who dared to touch these two humans would be her enemy. The Lion Emperor was put in a difficult position when a true dragon defended two humans. Seizing this opportunity, Xiao Chen stepped forward and spoke to the three Beast Emperors. "Sir Beast Emperors, Little Qing is our friend and we were the ones who brought her here. We didn't mean to barge into the 1,000 Beast Mountain Range. Everything was done because we had no choice." Xiao Chen told the three Beast Emperors about how the three of them were hunted down, how they had no choice but to jump off a cliff, and how they were washed into this valley by the river. After hearing Xiao Chen's story, the three Beast Emperors looked at each other. Then, the beautiful and charming Spirit Emperor slowly walked up to Xiao Chen with a charming smile on her face. "Little human, in this case, you're indeed innocent. Since that's the case, you can leave now. I'll get someone to send you out of the 1,000 Beast Mountain Range," Since they didn't mean to and little Qing was protecting them, there was no harm in sending them out. Upon hearing the Spirit Queen's words, Xiao Chen bowed and was about to leave with little Qing. But at this moment, the Lion Emperor and Tiger Emperor spoke at the same time. Your Highness True Dragon, please wait. Facing little Qing's departure, the three Beast Emperors appeared to be extremely nervous. Upon hearing their words, Xiao Chen and Chen Ling exchanged looks and guessed what was going on. Looking at the three Beast Emperors, it seemed like they didn't want little Qing to leave. Instead, they wanted little Qing to stay in the kingdom of demonic beasts. To be honest, Xiao Chen and Chen Ling were worried about little Qing. Although the three Beast Emperors didn't seem like they would harm little Qing, the three of them had been together for a long time and were as close as brothers. It was impossible for them to leave little Qing in the kingdom of demonic beasts. Please add, recommend, reward. Chapter 110. The three Beast Emperors did not want to let little Qing leave. Under the obstruction of the three Beast Emperors, Xiao Chen and the others arrived at the Kingdom of Monsters. This was a kingdom built by the Beast Clan in the Thousand Beast Mountain Range. There was a city, but it was not big. After all, only the transformed monster beasts could live in the city. Those who did not could only live in the endless mountain range. Arriving at the huge palace in the center of the city, Xiao Chen and Chen Ling stood in the middle of the palace. The Lion Emperor and the other two Beast Emperors sat on the main seat. As for little Qing, she naturally sat with them. Looking at Xiao Chen and Chen Ling, Ling Huang spoke first. We understand your relationship with His Majesty, the True Dragon. However, we hope that His Majesty the True Dragon can stay in the Kingdom of Monsters. His Majesty the True Dragon is a noble member of the Dragon Clan. In the entire Tiantian continent, only the Kingdom of Monsters can provide His Majesty with the best cultivation environment. If His Majesty the True Dragon follows you to the human world, not only will it not benefit His Majesty the True Dragon, it may even lead to a fatal disaster. To the Beast Clan, His Majesty the True Dragon is a supreme existence. However, to the human experts, His Majesty the True Dragon is a treasure. Therefore, once the human experts know His Majesty the True Dragon's identity, I believe that many will do whatever it takes to kill you. However, do you have the strength to protect His Majesty the True Dragon? Therefore, His Majesty the True Dragon staying in the Kingdom of Monsters is beneficial to both you and His Majesty. Finally, I will not hide it from you. His Majesty the True Dragon is our hope to return to our homeland. Therefore, we must ensure that His Majesty the True Dragon can grow up safely. Ling Huang spoke patiently for little Qing's sake. If not, she would not have wasted her breath. She would have directly thrown Xiao Chen and Chen Ling out of the Thousand Beast Mountain Range. She might have even killed them. It was because of little Qing's protection that Ling Huang was so polite to Xiao Chen and Chen Ling. She also patiently explained their intentions. They wanted little Qing to stay, and the ultimate goal of the three Beast Emperors was to use little Qing to return to their homeland. Xiao Chen did not know what the Spirit Emperor's homeland was, but Chen Ling knew. Indeed, although the Spirit Emperor and the others were Beast Emperors, they were unable to return to their homeland by themselves, because they could not open the door to their homeland. Only Xiao Qing, who had the bloodline of the Dragon Clan, could open the door to their homeland. The Soul Emperor did not rush them after he spoke. Instead, he gave Xiao Chen and the Soul Emperor time to think. After hearing his words, Xiao Chen also began to ponder in his mind. Now that he knew Xiao Qing's identity, it was indeed foolish to bring a dragon around. Even the 7 rulers would be tempted by a true dragon. Once Xiao Qing's identity was exposed, it wouldn't be the same as this time. At that time, all the human experts in the heavenly Chen continent would hunt him down. Judging from the current situation, only the Demon Beast Empire had the ability to protect little Qing. Secondly, Xiao Qing was from the Dragon Clan and was currently in the growth stage. If he stayed by his side, he would not be able to help him much. If he stayed in the Monster Beast Empire with the three Beast Emperor's abilities, he would be of great help to Shao-Qing's growth. Combining the above two aspects, as well as his own situation, the Spirit Emperor's words were not without reason. Staying in the Monster Beast Empire was indeed the best choice for Shao-Qing. However, everything depended on Shao-Qing. After bowing to the three Beast Emperors, Shao-Qing calmly said, "Your Majesty, this junior understands the reasoning behind this. However, I think that Shao-Qing's fate should not be decided by us. Everything depends on him. If Shao-Qing is willing to stay in the Monster Beast Empire, then Chen-Ling and I will not stop him. Of course, if Shao-Qing is unwilling, then even if it means striking a stone with an egg, us two brothers will not agree to the three Beast Emperors' request." The three Beast Emperors had no intention of harming Shao-Qing. In fact, they were very good to Shao-Qing. However, Shao-Chen still wanted Shao-Qing to decide whether to stay or leave. Hearing Shao-Chen's words, the Tiger Emperor smiled and said, "Then it will be up to His Majesty the True Dragon to decide." "All right. In that case, the two of you can stay in the Monster Beast Empire for a few days. Since you are His Majesty the True Dragon's friends, the Monster Beast Empire will naturally not treat you unfairly. You can stay here and relax for a few days." The three of them stayed together in the kingdom of demonic beasts. That night, the three of them sat in a circle in the courtyard and drank wine. The wine was sent by the three Beast Emperors. It was said that they had obtained good wine from the human world. It was very good. As they drank, Shao-Chen asked Chen-Ling, "Chen-Ling, do you want Shao-Qing to stay?" Although he had already made up his mind, Shao-Chen was still a little conflicted. Shao-Qing had been by his side since the 100 Spirits graveyard. Now that they were going to part, Shao-Chen was still a little reluctant. Hearing Shao-Chen's words, Shao-Qing also looked at Chen-Ling, as if waiting for his answer. Facing the gaze of a human and a dragon, Chen-Ling took a sip of wine and said slowly, "Tell the truth? Nonsense. If it's a lie, I'm asking you." Shao-Chen said unhappily, "If it were me, I would let Shao-Qing stay here. Because whether it's you or me, it won't do Shao-Qing any good. It might even lead to a fatal disaster for the two of us. Moreover, even if Shao-Qing chooses to stay, it doesn't mean that we won't be able to meet in the future. As long as we want to, we can meet. So, why not let Shao-Qing stay in a place that's more conducive to his growth?" Chen-Ling said slowly. Chen-Ling was in favor of Shao-Chen staying in the Monster Kingdom. Hearing this, Shao-Chen nodded sadly. He knew the reason, but he found it hard to accept at the moment. Seeing Shao-Chen's reluctance, Chen-Ling smiled and said, "Shao-Chen, a temporary separation doesn't mean anything. You have to know that the world is very big. Do you want Shao-Qing to become a true divine dragon, so that the three of us brothers can roam this vast world together? Or do you want Shao-Qing to stay by your side forever and waste his dragon bloodline?" Chen-Ling persuaded. In response, Shao-Chen was silent for a while. Then, he suddenly raised his head and looked at Chen-Ling and Shao-Qing, saying, "Why don't we become sworn brothers of the opposite sex? This way, even if we are separated in the future, we can still think of each other. The three of us will always be together, no matter where we are. How about it?" Shao-Chen suggested becoming sworn brothers. Hearing this, Chen-Ling was slightly taken aback, while Shao-Qing immediately nodded in agreement. Their gazes were fixed on Chen-Ling, waiting for his answer. Facing Shao-Chen and Shao-Qing's gazes, Chen-Ling finished the wine in his bowl in one gulp. His heart was filled with complicated thoughts. Brothers? Chapter 111. Shao-Chen suggested that the three of them become sworn brothers. Regarding the word brother, Chen-Ling's heart was filled with emotions. Back then, the people who tried to kill him were brought by his brothers. It could be said that in his previous life, Chen-Ling died in the hands of his brothers. As a result, Chen-Ling found it hard to believe in the word brother. Unaware that Chen-Ling had been betrayed by his brothers, Shao-Chen and Little Green looked at Chen-Ling expectantly, waiting for his answer. After experiencing a series of life and death situations, the three of them could be said to have a brotherly relationship. Facing Xiao Chen and Little Green's gazes, Chun Ling smiled helplessly and thought to himself, "Sigh, I still can't let go of you too. Then I'll believe in you one more time. If the result is still the same, then I can only blame the heavens. Okay, then let's become sworn brothers. But before that, there's one more thing that needs to be done. It's about Little Green." Chun Ling nodded in agreement. After being betrayed by his brothers and dying in the hands of his brothers, Chun Ling no longer believed in the word brother. However, facing Xiao Chun and Little Green, he was unwilling, or rather, unable to let go of the feelings between the three of them. In the end, Chun Ling chose to believe in them one more time, hoping that the result would be different. With the decision made, Xiao Chun and the other two took the initiative to meet the three Beast Emperors the next day. Furthermore, Xiao Chun clearly told the three Beast Emperors that Little Green was willing to stay in the country of monsters. However, there was a condition, and that was that they could not stop the three of them from meeting in the future. Naturally, the three Beast Emperors would not reject Xiao Chun's condition. In fact, to them, this was not a condition at all. It was just a meeting, so what was the big deal? They agreed to Xiao Chun's condition without hesitation. Then, Chun Ling spoke. "Your Majesties, I have a medicinal bath here. If Little Green uses it, it can stimulate the dragon bloodline in her body as quickly as possible. At least 30% of her bloodline can be awakened in a short period of time. I wonder if you three are interested?" The three Beast Emperors were clearly stunned when they heard Chun Ling's words. If they could quickly stimulate Xiaoqing's Dragon Clan bloodline, it would naturally be a good thing for them. The Lion Emperor immediately asked in a deep voice, "What medicinal bath? What materials do you need? Tell me." In response to the Lion King's question, Chun Ling told him the name of the medicinal bath and the required ingredients. According to Chun Ling, the medicinal bath was called the Dragon Transformation Liquid and was only effective for dragon whelp. As everyone knew, the bloodline of demonic beasts had not been activated when they were just born. They could only be activated slowly as they continued to grow. The Dragon Transformation Liquid was a secret technique of the Dragon Clan. It was able to activate the bloodline of a young dragon to the greatest extent in the shortest amount of time, allowing it to grow faster. However, although the effect of the dragonization liquid was heaven-defying, it was only effective for the Dragon Clan. Moreover, the required materials were extremely precious. After Chun Ling reported the required materials, even the three Beast Kings were stunned. A total of 680 heavenly treasures, and half of them were things that they had never even heard of before. Obviously, these were things that did not exist in the heavenly Qin continent or had already gone extinct. It was impossible to gather all these materials. In this regard, Chun Ling had obviously thought of this and had prepared a simplified version of the Dragon Transformation Liquid beforehand. The simplified version of the dragonization liquid did indeed require a lot less resources, but it was still extremely precious. However, the three Beast Emperors were still able to find a way to gather it. However, the thing that troubled the three of them the most was that aside from these natural treasures, they also needed 3 drops of blood essence from each of them. The three Beast Emperors might be able to gather the materials, but the 3 drops of blood essence, one had to know that blood essence was extremely precious and it would take a long time to recover from losing a single drop. And now, Chun Ling asked for 3 drops, and 3 drops from each of the 3 Beast Kings. In an instant, the 3 Beast Kings were somewhat hesitant. Forcefully forcing out 3 drops of blood essence would cause significant damage to them, and it would be difficult for them to recover in a short period of time. Seeing that the 3 Beast Emperors were in a difficult position, Chun Ling had already expected this, and said unhurriedly, "Your Majesty Beast Kings, you don't need to be conflicted. I can guarantee the effects of the Dragon Transformation Liquid. Besides, even though you have lost 3 drops of blood essence, when Little Blue awakens her bloodline, I can get her to give you some ordinary blood essence from the dragon race. Think about it, if your Majesty Beast Kings can obtain the power of the dragon race's bloodline, the benefits will be incomparable to 3 drops of blood essence, right? Exchanging one's blood essence for ordinary blood essence seemed like a losing trade. However, the 3 Beast Kings were exchanging ordinary blood essence from the dragon race, which was definitely a great deal. Not to mention ordinary blood essence from the dragon race, even a drop of saliva from the dragon race was regarded as a peerless treasure by the world. It was known as the dragon saliva. As expected, after hearing Chen Ling's words, the 3 Beast Kings' expressions changed. Their eyes revealed a hint of excitement, and they immediately nodded in agreement. Even though 3 drops of blood essence were precious, it was not worth mentioning when compared to the blood essence of a true dragon. Immediately, he ordered the elites of the Monster Beast Kingdom to search for the ingredients needed for the dragon transformation liquid, and promised that they would gather them within half a month, after which Xiao Qun and the other 2 returned to their residences to rest. After returning to their residences, Xiao Qun and Little Blue did not know what Chen Ling was up to. They looked at Chen Ling, and Xiao Qun suspiciously asked, "Is the dragon transformation liquid you speak of real?" "Of course it's real. As long as there is the dragon transformation liquid, Little Blue's bloodline power will be able to awaken. At that time, even though it will not be able to transform, it should not have a problem speaking the human language. Furthermore, after its bloodline awakens, Little Blue's growth rate will be much faster. There are only benefits and no disadvantages for it." Chen Ling replied. "If that's the case, then why did you ask Little Blue to give its blood essence to the 3 Beast Kings?" Xiao Chen asked. "What's wrong with that? Little Blue only gave ordinary blood essence, while the 3 Beast Kings gave their blood essence. How can the 2 be compared? Giving them some ordinary blood essence won't harm Little Blue at all. If I didn't do this, would the 3 Beast Kings agree? Furthermore, let me tell you. Originally, the dragon transformation liquid only required 1 drop of their blood essence each. The extra 6 drops were prepared for the 2 of us." After explaining to Xiao Qun, Chen Ling said mysteriously, "Originally, Little Blue only needed 3 drops of the 9 Beast Kings' blood essence, while the remaining 6 drops were prepared by Chen Ling for himself and Xiao Qun. In other words, using this opportunity, Chen Ling had taken advantage of the 3 Beast Kings. Please collect recommend reward. Chapter 112. The 6 drops of blood essence were prepared for the 2 of them. Hearing Chen Ling's words, Xiao Qun smiled helplessly. This guy was so secretive. He wouldn't tell him what he wanted to do. He didn't tell Xiao Qun what he needed the 6 drops of blood essence for. Instead, he patiently stayed in the kingdom of demonic beasts. His days were comfortable and comfortable. After all, with Xiao Qing around, no demonic beasts dared to disrespect him and the others. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. On this day, the 3 beast emperors called Xiao Qun and the other 2 to the main hall. They had already prepared all the ingredients needed for the dragon transformation liquid. For half a month, the Beast Kings and Beast Sovereigns of the Monster Kingdom were on a large scale. Not only did they search the 10,000 Beast Mountain range for these ingredients, they even went to human territory and bought a lot of ingredients. It was worth mentioning that the Monster Kingdom's large-scale looting of all kinds of natural treasures naturally attracted the attention of the Beast Sovereigns. One of the Beast Sovereigns even sent a divine consciousness clone to the Monster Kingdom to ask the 3 Beast Emperors about their intentions. However, the 3 Beast Emperors evaded the question. All in all, the Monster Kingdom's large purchases this time attracted the attention of all parties. And all of this was just to make a single batch of dragon transformation liquid for Xiao Qing. The Beast Emperor handed a storage ring to Chen Ling. Inside were the required ingredients and 9 drops of blood essence from the 3 Beast Emperors. How long will it take to make the dragon transformation liquid? The Soul Emperor asked after handing the storage ring to Chen Ling. 9 days. However, Shao Qing will probably need half a month to absorb all the medicinal power. Chen Ling replied. After asking about other matters, the three beast emperors allowed Shao Chen and the other two to leave. Of course, during this time, the three beast emperors had arranged for people to monitor Shao Chen and the other two. After all, they had given so many precious treasures to Chen Ling. If he couldn't make the dragon transformation liquid, the three beast emperors would probably flip out. Chen Ling didn't mind being monitored. After returning to his residence, he began to make the dragon transformation liquid. The dragon transformation liquid was not an elixir, hence, it was not too troublesome. The only thing he needed to pay attention to was the method of fusing the various ingredients together. However, such a small matter was not difficult for Chen Ling. Hence, in just 9 days, the dragon transformation liquid was prepared by Chen Ling. Not only did the small flask of golden liquid contain all kinds of natural treasures, but it also contained 3 drops of blood essence from a beast emperor. After concocting the dragonized liquid, Shao Chen handed it over to the 3 beast emperors. After the 3 beast emperors checked and confirmed that there were no mistakes, Shao Chen was brought to a secret room designated by the 3 beast emperors to cultivate in seclusion. Shao Qing began her closed-door cultivation. At the same time, the 3 beast emperors stopped monitoring Shao Chen and Chen Ling. After all, Shao Qing was currently in closed-door cultivation, which proved that Chen Ling had not lied to them. As such, they only needed to wait for Shao Qing to emerge. No one was monitoring them. This was naturally a good thing for Shao Chen and Chen Ling. Next, Chen Ling prepared to teach Shao Chen how to refine the 3 drops of Beast Emperor's blood essence. The 3 brothers each had 3 drops of Beast Emperor's blood essence. Sitting cross-legged on the bed in the room, Chen Ling took out 3 jade bottles. Each bottle contained a drop of Beast Emperor's blood essence. This was a true treasure. It was priceless. In the entire heavenly Qin continent, who could possess a Beast Emperor's blood essence? Perhaps even the 7 sovereigns did not have one. Shao Chen, I want these 3 drops of Beast Emperor's blood essence. My goal is to improve our physical bodies. Hence, you must remember the refining method that I am going to tell you. During the refining process, you must not make a single mistake. Otherwise, the violent energy within the blood essence will instantly kill you. At this moment, Chen Ling's expression was very serious. This was understandable. After all, the 2 of them were only at the advanced mysterious Aeon stage. Logically speaking, it was impossible for them to refine the Beast Emperor's blood essence at this stage. Only Chen Ling, who had the memories of his previous life and a unique refining method, could do it. However, they could not make a single mistake during the refining process. Otherwise, the energy within the blood essence could easily kill the 2 of them. According to the method that Chen Ling taught them, with their current cultivation, it was impossible for them to refine the energy within the 3 drops of blood essence in one go. Hence, they could only use a special method to fuse the 3 drops of blood essence into their bodies and condense them into blood pills. Letting the blood pills continuously nourish their physical bodies would take a long time. However, this was the only method at the moment. At the same time, after completely refining the blood pills in the future, according to what Chen Ling said, it would be enough for the 2 of them to form Dao bodies in advance. It had to be said that Chen Ling's method was superb. Furthermore, under the constant nourishment of the blood pills, the 2 of them would continuously strengthen their physical bodies. This was the most important thing. As everyone knew, monster beasts were born with powerful physical bodies. This was their innate talent. Humans could only look up to them. Chen Ling used this method to transfer the powerful physical bodies of monster beasts to the 2 of them. Chen Ling told Shao Chen in detail what he needed to pay attention to throughout the entire process. Finally, under Chen Ling's guidance, Shao Chen swallowed the 3 drops of blood essence into his abdomen. Following Chen Ling's instructions, the blood essence slowly condensed in his body. It took a total of 3 days to condense the blood pill. Seeing that Xiao Chen had succeeded, Chen Ling was relieved. He then began to condense his own blood pill. At this time, Chen Ling began to condense the blood pill. After Xiao Chen felt his current physical body, he could not help but feel a burst of excitement. He had just condensed the blood pill and had not absorbed much of its energy. However, his physical body was already several times stronger. It was no exaggeration to say that his current physical strength was invincible in the mysterious Ian realm. In the entire Tianxian continent, no mysterious Ian realm warrior's physical body could be as strong as his. Even Huang Gu, who had the savage tyrant body, could not compare to him in terms of physical strength. Such a terrifying increase, and this was only the benefit of condensing the blood pill. It was hard to imagine how strong his physical body would become after the blood pill continued to nourish his body, and the energy in the blood pill was completely refined by him. Xiao Chen's current state, simply put, was equivalent to a body refinement martial artist who was constantly cultivating a body refinement martial art. However, Xiao Chen did not need to cultivate because his body would automatically absorb the energy of the blood pill. In the end, Xiao Chen would become a powerful body refinement martial artist without paying any price. He would have an invincible physical strength in the same realm. Chen Ling's move had given him a great opportunity. Of course, this was not something that anyone could obtain. Think about it, in the entire heavenly Qin continent, other than Xiao Chen and the other two, who else could obtain the life-blood essence of a beast emperor? Even the 7 dominators could not do it. Please collect recommend reward. Chapter 113. After successfully condensing the blood core, Xiao Chen had to wait for Chen Ling to condense the blood core and for Xiao Qing to come out of seclusion. It would take at least half a month, especially for Xiao Qing. The dragon transformation liquid was extremely important to Xiao Qing, so there could not be any mistakes during this seclusion. While waiting for Xiao Qing to come out of seclusion, Xiao Chen also planned to make another breakthrough in his cultivation. Under normal circumstances, it would be very difficult for Xiao Chen to make another breakthrough after breaking through to the greater mysterious Yuan stage. However, because of the blood core, Xiao Chen's cultivation had improved, so there was a possibility for him to break through to the lesser mysterious Yuan stage. At the same time, 3 days later, Chen Ling successfully condensed the blood core. After seeing that Xiao Chen was in seclusion, Chen Ling also planned to make a breakthrough in his cultivation. The two brothers cultivated while waiting for Xiao Qing to come out of seclusion. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Xiao Chen and Chen Ling both broke through to the lesser mysterious Yuan stage. This breakthrough was greatly helped by the blood core. After successfully breaking through, they waited for another 5 days. Xiao Qing also successfully refined the dragon transformation liquid, and the power of its bloodline was activated. Even though it was only a Class 2 demonic beast, it could already speak. Xiao Qing excitedly found Xiao Chen and Chen Ling. After half a month of seclusion, Xiao Qing's appearance had changed greatly. Its snake body had completely disappeared, and 2 small dragon horns stood on its forehead. At the same time, 4 dragon claws had grown out of its abdomen, and each dragon claw had 5 fingers. As everyone knew, a true dragon had 5 fingers, and a flood dragon only had 4. It was obvious that Xiao Qing's bloodline was indeed that of a true dragon. Seeing the changes in Xiao Qing, Xiao Chen and Chen Ling were very happy. After all, the dragon transformation liquid was not wasted, and Xiao Qing's bloodline power had been activated. Although they were happy when they heard Xiao Qing speak, Xiao Chen and Chen Ling were stunned. Looking at Xiao Qing, Xiao Chen said in shock, You're a girl?" Previously, they had not paid attention to little Qing's gender. However, when little Qing opened her mouth to speak, that pleasant female voice immediately stunned Xiao Chen and Chen Ling. A girl, Xiao Qing was actually a girl. For a moment, Xiao Chen and Chen found it hard to accept. Facing their shock, Xiao Qing said with an unhappy face, What's wrong with being a girl? Why, are you two looking down on me? No, 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 no. Facing Xiao Qing's dissatisfaction, Chun Ling explained. Xiao Qing's words. Originally, the three of them were planning to become sworn brothers, but now that little Qing had, Xiao Chen and Yi Zichen were a little confused. So what if she's a woman? Can't a woman be your brother? Or are you saying that you don't want to be sworn brothers with me anymore? Xiao Qing yelled. It wasn't that they didn't want to be sworn brothers with Xiao Qing. It was just that they couldn't get used to it. As time passed, Xiao Chen and Chun Ling gradually accepted Xiao Qing's identity. At the same time, Xiao Qing also gave herself a name, Long Qing. The dragon race had Long as their surname, so there was no problem with this name. After accepting Xiao Qing's identity as a girl, the three of them naturally wouldn't go back on their words. However, they encountered another problem, which was the ranking among the three of them. Since the three of them were sworn brothers, there naturally had to be a ranking. As for who should be the big brother, the three of them had different opinions. According to Chun Ling, since they were going to be sworn brothers, they would naturally be ranked according to age. In this way, Chun Ling, who had lived 2 lives, would undoubtedly be the big brother. Xiao Chen couldn't persuade Chun Ling to be the big brother, so he eventually agreed. However, Xiao Chen was completely speechless when the second brother and sister argued. Long Qing insisted on being the second sister no matter what, while Xiao Chen became the third brother, the youngest among the three of them. Xiao Chen naturally wasn't happy about it. I don't have any opinions about ranking according to age. I also don't have any opinions about Chun Ling being the big brother. But you were just born. What right do you have to be the second sister? Long Qing was born in the 100 Spirits graveyard. In this way, she was indeed younger than Xiao Chen. However, this was Xiao Chen's reason. According to Long Qing, although she was just born, if the time she hatched was included, she was much older than Xiao Chen. When Long Qing was born to Chun Ling, Long Qing was just a dragon egg. She hadn't even hatched. However, Long Qing insisted on counting her age from here. In this way, she was indeed much older than Xiao Chen. She didn't give in at all. In the end, as expected, Xiao Chen was defeated. Reality proved that it was almost impossible to reason with a woman, even if this woman was a dragon. After the ranking was confirmed, among the 3 siblings, Chun Ling was the eldest, Long Qing was the second, and Xiao Chen became the third, which meant that he was the little brother among the 3 of them. Looking at Chun Ling and Chun Ling's sinister smiles, Xiao Chen said unhappily, "According to your calculation, the 2 of you are already old monsters who have lived for who knows how many years. Even the 3 beast emperors and the 7 beast rulers aren't as old as the 2 of you, right?" Xiao Chen had become the youngest among the 3 of them for no reason. One could imagine how he felt. Chun Ling and Chun Ling didn't care about Xiao Chen's displeasure at all. After the ranking was confirmed, the next step was to become sworn siblings. According to Long Qing's wishes, the 3 of them couldn't be too casual about becoming sworn siblings. Therefore, Long Qing asked the 3 beast emperors for help. She hoped that they could host the ceremony for the 3 of them to become sworn siblings in front of all the monsters in the Wanshou mountain range. Having 3 beast emperors as witnesses was definitely a luxurious treatment. In the face of Long Qing's request, the 3 beast emperors didn't refuse. After all, this was a small matter. The date of the ceremony was set to be 3 days later. Under the orders of the beast emperors, the monsters in the Wanshou mountain range all began to move. In fact, there was no need to prepare anything. The location of the ceremony was set at the highest mountain peak in the Wanshou mountain range. It was called the Golden Peak. It was said that this was not only the highest mountain in the Wanshou mountain range, but also the highest mountain in the entire heavenly Qin continent. At the same time, it was also known as the place closest to the sun, so it was called the Golden Peak. The location of the ceremony was directly set at the Golden Peak. Of course, with Xiao Chun and the other two's current strength, it was impossible for them to reach the Golden Peak. On the day of the ceremony, the three Beast Emperors would personally lead the three of them to the Golden Peak. Becoming sworn siblings at the Golden Peak filled Xiao Chun and the other two's hearts with anticipation. Along the way, there was no need to talk about the feelings between the three of them. Today, they were about to become sworn siblings. In the hearts of the three of them, they already saw each other as family. Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 114. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye, and the day of the swearing ceremony had arrived. Xiao Chun and the other two started preparing early in the morning. After the three of them had freshened up, they walked out of their rooms one after another and looked at each other with smiles on their faces. Dressed in white, Xiao Chun looked ethereal. Chunling, on the other hand, was dressed in a long golden robe. His entire person looked extremely noble. After awakening his memories, Chunling's temperament had undergone a complete transformation. Although Chunling had never mentioned his identity in his previous life, Xiao Chun could still guess that Chunling must have been a member of a large force or family in his previous life. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to have such a noble temperament. Compared to Xiao Chun and Chunling, Long Qing, who was still unable to transform, did not have much to dress up. However, as a member of the dragon race, and now that she had revealed the appearance of a true dragon, even if she did not dress up, Long Qing's appearance was absolutely mighty and domineering, just like a miniature version of a divine dragon. The two of them and the dragon were ready. At the same time, the three Beast Emperors also appeared in the courtyard. Looking at the three of them, Emperor Ling nodded slightly and smiled. "Not bad, you three little ones are all outstanding people. Not only are your talents extraordinary, but your appearances are also top-notch." Not bad, not bad. After careful preparation, Xiao Chun and the other two's temperament was naturally extraordinary. Even Emperor Ling could not help but nod and praise. Facing the Beast Emperor's praise, the three of them smiled. Then, under the lead of the three Beast Emperors, the group rushed directly to the Golden Peak. As the tallest mountain in the entire heavenly Chun continent, the Golden Peak pierced through the clouds. From afar, it looked like a Jian-yi towering between heaven and earth, and the clouds only reached halfway up the Golden Peak. It was very high and very steep. If Xiao Chun and the other two were to climb the mountain by themselves, it would be difficult for them to reach the Golden Peak. However, with the Beast Emperor leading the way, it was much easier. Soon, the three of them appeared on the Golden Peak. At this time, there were many Beast Venerables and Beast Kings on the Golden Peak. They were all here to witness Xiao Chun and the other two's swearing ceremony. This time, almost all the Beast Kings and Venerables of the entire Beast Empire were present. As for the Beast Kings and below, they had already gathered below the Golden Peak, but they were not qualified to set foot on it. With the arrival of Xiao Chun and the other two, the many Beast Sovereigns and Beast Kings on the Golden Summit quieted down. The three Beast Emperors also went to their seats and sat down, leaving the center of the Golden Summit to Xiao Chun and the other two. The auspicious time had arrived. Xiao Chun and the other two knelt on the ground. A Beast King had already prepared 3 bowls of wine. Then, Chunling, Xiao Chun, and Long Qing, the three of them pricked their index fingers at the same time and mixed their blood into the 3 bowls of wine. With the yellow heavens as my witness, today, I, Chunling, I, Long Qing, and I, Xiao Chun, swear to be sworn brothers. From today onwards, we are willing to share blessings and hardships together. If we violate this oath, may the heavens strike us with lightning and we die without a burial place. The three of them shouted at the same time. As soon as their voices fell, they drank the blood wine in their hands. The whole swearing ceremony was not complicated. Of course, this was also what Xiao Chun and the other two wanted. These complicated ceremonies were not very useful. The most important thing was the feelings between the three of them. After drinking the blood wine, the three of them stood up and looked at Xiao Chun and Long Qing. Chunling smiled and said, "Second sister, third brother, big brother, third brother, Long Qing said. Since they were sworn brothers, it was natural for them to address each other as siblings. As soon as their voices fell, they turned to Xiao Chen at the same time. Seeing this, Xiao Chen smiled helplessly. Big brother, second sister. Heh, third brother, since we are already brothers, you should practice calling me big brother more in the future. Judging from your reaction just now, it seems like you're still a little unfamiliar with it. Come. Call me that again. Hearing the helplessness in Xiao Chen's words, Chen Ling teased. Hearing this, Xiao Chen scolded in annoyance. Scram. These two fellas, one of them became the big brother and the other became the second sister because of their age, and now they actually dared to tease him. But in the next second, the three of them hugged each other. Just as Xiao Chen said, since the three of them were already siblings, no matter where they were in the future, their hearts would be tightly linked together in the name of brothers. After the ceremony was over, it was time to drink and celebrate. Of course, before that, Long Qing gave her blood essence to the three beast emperors in front of the crowd. Facing Long Qing's gift, the three beast emperors were thrilled. Although Long Qing only gave them ordinary blood essence, it was the blood essence of a true dragon, which was extremely precious. After receiving Long Qing's blood essence as they wished, the three beast emperors were naturally in a good mood. Everyone drank to their heart's content on the golden peak. From time to time, roars of beasts could be heard from the foot of the mountain as though they were congratulating Xiao Chen and the other two. No matter if it was Xiao Chen, Chen Ling, or Long Qing, the three of them were very happy today. At the same time, it was also the first time the three of them were drunk and unconscious. In the end, it was the three beast emperors who sent the three of them back to their residence. After sleeping for an entire night, when Xiao Chen woke up the next day, he realized that he was already in his room. Thinking about yesterday's incident, Xiao Chen couldn't help but smile. Since yesterday, it was undeniable that Xiao Chen had some more worries in his heart. And these worries naturally came from Chen Ling and Long Qing. One was his big brother, while the other was his second sister. Of course, he believed that it was the same for the two of them. Now that everything was settled, the next step was to leave. This was something that Chen Ling and Long Qing were also aware of. Moreover, Long Qing had already requested the three beast emperors to make life tokens for the three of them. These life tokens were very precious, and they could only be made from the extremely rare and precious heavenly soulwood. The use of life tokens was also very simple. By injecting one's spirit energy into it, the life token would be able to display that person's vitality. If the owner of the life token was injured or died, the life token would shatter or be directly destroyed. This would tell others about the owner's situation. They made 2 life tokens for each of the 3 siblings, making a total of 6. After injecting their spirit energy into the life tokens, the 3 siblings each kept 2. Xiao Chen held Chen Ling and Long Qing's life tokens, Chen Ling held Xiao Chen and Long Qing's life tokens, and Long Qing held Xiao Chen and Chen Ling's life tokens. This way, even if they weren't together, the 3 siblings would be able to immediately know each other's situation through their life tokens. If each other was injured or died, the 3 of them would immediately know. It was time to part. After making the life tokens, Long Qing and Ling Huang personally sent Xiao Chen and Chen Ling to the outskirts of the 10,000 Beast Mountain Range. Of course, this place was close to the central divine domain, and it was the other exit of the 10,000 Beast Mountain Range. Long Qing reluctantly looked at the 2 siblings and said, "Big brother, third brother, are you really not going to stay?" Chapter 115. Big brother, third brother, are you really not going to stay? Even though she knew it was impossible, Long Qing still could not help but ask. Hearing Long Qing's words, Chen Ling smiled and said, "Second sister, you will be able to obtain the best cultivation environment if you stay in the country of Yao beasts. However, third brother and I are different. There is no point in us staying in the country of Yao beasts. work hard on your cultivation. Trust me, it won't be long before we three siblings meet again. As mentioned before, Chun Ling and Xiao Chen would not be staying in the country of Yao beasts. The cultivation methods of Yao beasts and humans were different. Even the three great beast emperors could only provide limited help to Xiao Chen and Chun Ling. Hearing Chun Ling's words, Long Qing nodded slightly. Then, Xiao Chen waved to Long Qing and said, "Let's go, second sister. If you ever come to the Divine Central Region, come find me at 9 Firmaments Palace." After bidding farewell to Long Qing, the two of them left the All-Beast mountain range and officially set foot on the Divine Central Region. They had already planned to head to 9 Firmaments Palace. After all, Qin Shuru was still waiting for them there. The first time they came to the Divine Central Region, they found a small town outside the All-Beast mountain range. It had been a long time since they had eaten human food and wine. After finding a restaurant, Xiao Chen and Chun Ling ordered a few dishes and a jug of wine and began eating. "Big brother, why don't you come with me to 9 Firmaments Palace?" Xiao Chen said as he drank. Chun Ling had not mentioned where he wanted to go. Now, Xiao Chen had taken the initiative to invite him. Chun Ling smiled in response to Xiao Chen's invitation. "I'm not going, third brother. Going to 9 Firmaments Palace is not beneficial to me. You know that." He had no intention of going to 9 Firmaments Palace. Moreover, from Chun Ling's words, it seemed that he was not planning on joining any forces. As Chun Ling, he was the reincarnation of an ancient almighty. He did not need anyone to guide him. For him, cultivation was very simple. Moreover, in his memories, he had all sorts of superb martial skills. There was no need for him to head to those great forces to cultivate. Chun Ling had no intention of going to 9 Firmaments Palace with him. After saying that, Chun Ling paused for a moment before continuing. "Third brother, you can say that my future has already been set. With the memories of my previous life, I only need to cultivate step by step. But you are different. You are like a blank piece of paper now. Your future has unlimited possibilities. Third brother, your talent is the strongest I've ever seen in my life. Even though I've seen countless geniuses in the past, very few could compare to you. Originally, I was wondering if I should bring you along with me. However, after thinking about it, I gave up on that idea. All my life, I have only loved the Tao of Blades. I do not have much involvement in the Tao of Swords. Although you might have an advantage in terms of cultivation if you follow me, you will be greatly restricted in other aspects. Throwing away a watermelon for a sesame seed is not worth it. So, I decided that instead of having you follow me, it would be better for you to explore on your own. Everyone's path is different. You have just stepped onto the path of martial arts. Exploring on your own and witnessing the vastness of martial arts is more beneficial for you. Moreover, I firmly believe that only in this way, after experiencing your own trials, will you be able to shine with your own brilliance in the future." Chun Ling had originally thought of bringing Xiao Chen along with him so that he could guide Xiao Chen's cultivation. However, this idea had now been rejected by Chun Ling. Although it was too easy for Chun Ling to guide Xiao Chen's cultivation with his previous life's cultivation, was this really a good thing for Xiao Chen? After spending this period of time together, Chun Ling had fully witnessed Xiao Chen's talent. It was precisely because he understood Xiao Chen's talent that Chun Ling actually felt that he could not teach Xiao Chen. Not only would it not benefit Xiao Chen if he tied Xiao Chen to his side, it might even hinder his future development. In Chun Ling's opinion, Xiao Chen was a piece of unpolished jade. Moreover, this piece of unpolished jade had yet to reveal its true potential. Only after undergoing countless trials and tribulations, this piece of unpolished jade like Xiao Chen would truly stand proudly in the world. In Chun Ling's heart, although he had never said it out loud, his intuition told him that among the three siblings, Xiao Chen's future accomplishments would likely far surpass his and Long Qing's. This was because, from a certain perspective, His and Longqing's futures were basically destined. He was the reincarnation of an ancient supreme existence, while Longqing was a member of the Dragon Clan. Although their future accomplishments would be very high, there would still be a limit. However, Xiaochun was different. His future was limitless. Thus, Chunling was willing and hoped that Xiaochun would be able to forge his own path. Of course, at the same time, he and Longqing would always stand behind Xiaochun and support him. After all, they were Xiaochun's big brother and second sister. He did not plan on following Xiaochun to Nine Firmaments Palace. At the same time, he did not plan on having Xiaochun by his side. Hearing Qinling's words, Xiaochun knew what he meant. He nodded his head and did not say anything else. After the meal, it was already night. Qinling suggested that the two of them stay in town for the night. Xiaochun did not refuse. After a night of silence, early the next morning, Xiaochun had to rush to Nine Firmaments Palace. Qinling obviously had his own plans. The two of them planned to part ways here. Outside the town, the two brothers each led a dragon horse and bid farewell to each other. Before they parted, Qinling suddenly said, "Third brother, I have never had anything good to give you. Moreover, I am not too deeply involved in the way of the sword. There is not much I can give you. I only have one sword technique here. I will give it to you. Relax your mind and do not resist it." Before leaving, Qinling was prepared to pass on the only sword technique in his memory to Xiaochun. The two of them connected their minds and a huge amount of information quickly flowed into Xiaochun's mind. After a full 10 breaths, the two of them stopped. Then, a strange expression appeared on Xiaochun's face. The martial technique that Qinling passed on to him was called the Nine Heaven Sword Finger. Qinling did not know the specific realm. It was something that he had obtained by chance in an ancient ruin in his previous life. However, according to the records, the Nine Heaven Sword Finger had a total of 9 fingers. The first finger was equivalent to a normal martial technique. The second finger was equivalent to a Xian martial technique. The third finger was equivalent to an earth martial technique. The fourth finger had reached the terrifying heaven martial technique. It was definitely a heaven-defying martial technique. Just the fourth finger was already a heaven-level martial technique. Then, what about the fifth finger? The sixth finger? And the ninth finger? What kind of terrifying level would it reach? It was definitely giving Xiaochun a huge treasure. Regarding this, Qinling did not even frown. In his opinion, no heaven-defying treasure could compare to the feelings between the three of them. Knowing that the Nine Heaven Sword Finger would be of great help to Xiaochun, Qinling smiled and mounted his horse. Then, he laughed loudly and said, "Let's go, third brother. You have to cultivate well. The next time we meet, don't let me and second sister leave you behind too much." After saying that, he clamped his legs on the horse's belly and left. Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 116. Qinling left in a very carefree manner. He left behind a peerless opportunity, like the Ninth Heaven Sword Finger, to Xiaochun before leaving. Watching Qinling leave, Xiaochun shouted with a smile, "Don't worry, the next time we meet, I will not be left behind by big brother and second sister." Xiaochun's words did not receive a response, but Qinling, who was far away, had a smile on his face. At this point, the three siblings had gone their separate ways, each of them searching for their own path of martial arts. Although they had separated, their hearts were still tightly connected. Seeing Qinling disappear from sight, Xiaochun mounted his horse and rushed towards Nine Firmaments Palace. The entire divine central region was very large, occupying over 60% of the heavenly Qin mainland. Moreover, due to the existence of the 7 great overlords, although there were many sects and families within the divine central region, it was still divided into 7 prefectures. The division of the 7 prefectures was based on the 7 great overlord. Each of the 7 great overlords ruled over a prefecture. Xiaochun was currently in the Heavenly Pill Prefecture, where the Heavenly Dan Valley was established by the Heavenly Pill ruler. As one of the 7 great overlords, the Heavenly Pill ruler was known as the #1 alchemist in the Heavenly Chun mainland. At the same time, the Heavenly Dan Valley that he established was also a place that all alchemists in the Heavenly Chun mainland yearned for. Over 70% of the alchemists in the entire continent came from the Heavenly Dan Valley. It could be said that the Heavenly Dan Valley controlled all of the alchemists in the Heavenly Chun mainland. However, the Heavenly Dan Valley rarely participated in the struggle, as if it was detached from the world. Because of this and their identity as alchemists, the Heavenly Dan Valley was very popular in the Heavenly Chun mainland. It had close cooperation with the other 6 great overlords. Thinking about it, which cultivator could live without medicinal pills? Due to the existence of the Heavenly Dan Valley, the number of alchemists in the Heavenly Pill Prefecture was the highest. Within the Heavenly Pill Prefecture's territory, almost every city had an Earth-tier alchemist. Alchemists were divided into alchemy apprentices, mortal-level alchemists, black-level alchemists, earth-level alchemists, and sky-level alchemists. In the Eastern Sun region, Earth-grade alchemists were rare. However, in the Heavenly Pill Prefecture, almost every city had an Earth-grade alchemist. From this, one could see the difference between the two. They rushed towards 9 Firmaments Palace's residence, 9 Firmaments Palace. However, due to the long distance, Xiao Chen had no choice but to rest while making his way there. Half a month later, Xiao Chen still had not left the territory of the Heavenly Elixir Prefecture. There was nothing he could do about it, as the Central Divine Realm was just too big. One day, Xiao Chen arrived at a city called the City of the Apothecary King. Originally, Xiao Chen planned to rest here for the night before leaving. However, during dinner, he heard 2 pieces of news that interested him. The first was about the movements of the Heavenly Prides in the Heavenly Chun mainland. It had been several months since he entered the Myriad Beast mountain range. During this period of time, many changes had occurred in the Heavenly Chun mainland, especially regarding the Heavenly Pride. It was known as a golden age that was hard to come by in 10,000 years. Under this golden age, the Heavenly Chun mainland produced many Heavenly Prides and monsters. However, it was obvious that the world had underestimated the arrival of this golden age. After Xiao Chun and the other Heavenly Prides appeared, more and more Heavenly Prides appeared in the Heavenly Chun mainland. In just a few months, the number of recognized Heavenly Prides in the Heavenly Chun mainland had reached over 100. What kind of concept was this? Although the Heavenly Chun mainland had a population of over 100 billion, Heavenly Prides were not cabbages that could be found everywhere. In other dynasties, it was already considered good to have a few Heavenly Prides. However, there were now over 100 Heavenly Prides. It was precisely because of the appearance of so many Heavenly Prides that the world called this era the era of Heavenly Pride. This was because only Heavenly Prides could stir up a storm in this era. The era of Heavenly Prides was both fortunate and unfortunate, especially for those geniuses. Perhaps they were very talented, but it was a pity that they were born in the era of Heavenly Prides. This caused them to be destined to be unknown. Following the appearance of new Heavenly Prides, the 7 overlords also jointly released a Heavenly Prides list. The list listed the life stories of the 100 Heavenly Prides, as well as an analysis and ranking based on their battle records. The Heavenly Prides list, which was jointly released by the 7 overlords, attracted the attention of the world the moment it was released. Of course, Xiao Chen was not on the list because everyone thought that Xiao Chen had died in the Myriad Beast mountain range. At the same time, within a few months, the Heavenly Prides of the 4 major domains had arrived in the Central Divine region and joined the 7 overlords. It was worth mentioning that Gu Lei and Su Mu of the 4 major domains had just arrived in the Central Divine region when they were challenged by the top Heavenly Prides of the Central Divine region. The top Heavenly Prides challenged the 10 Great Prides, but the results were unacceptable. Gu Lei and Su Mu were both defeated by the top Heavenly Prides of the Central Divine region. Because of this, many people naturally felt that the four major domains' prides were too weak. In terms of strength, they were not as strong as the top heavenly prides of the central divine region. Fortunately, after Huang Gu accepted the challenge from the top heavenly prides of the central divine region, he won and saved some face for the four major domains' prides. Even so, Gu Lei and Su Mu's defeat was a fact. As a result, the heavenly prides of the central divine region looked down on the heavenly prides of the other four major domains even more. If even the king of prides was defeated, how strong could the other heavenly prides be? The above was related to the movements of the heavenly Chen continent's heavenly prides in the past few months. The second news was that the number one family in the city of the Medicine King, the Yao family, would be holding the Medicine King's grand meeting 3 days later. When the time came, even the 7 overlords of the heavenly Dan Valley would send people to participate. The fact that people from the 7 overlords would be participating naturally attracted the attention of countless other major powers. It could be said that when the news of the Yao King's grand meeting was released, many people from the major powers had already rushed to the city of the Medicine King's grand meeting. That was because, in the Medicine King's grand meeting, one could buy many medicinal pills that were rarely seen in the market. There were even rumors that heaven-tier medicinal pills might appear in this Medicine King's grand meeting. The Medicine King's grand meeting was very attractive. Of course, Xiao Qun didn't care about that. What Xiao Qun cared about was this Medicine King's grand meeting. It was said that the people from 9 Firmaments Palace's Heavenly Sword Peak would also be participating in this Medicine King's grand meeting. As the Heavenly Sword Peak of 9 Firmaments Palace, this matter had naturally caused a great commotion in the central divine region. Additionally, it was said that a Peak Lord from Heavenly Sword Peak would be leading the team to participate in this Medicine King's grand meeting. Unexpectedly, even Heavenly Sword Peak would be participating in this Medicine King's grand meeting. As he drank, Xiao Qun thought to himself, "I wonder who will be leading the team. Will it be Master or Senior Uncle? What about Senior Uncle? If so, all I need to do is to wait in the city of the Medicine King. When the time comes, I will return to Heavenly Sword Peak with them. Begging for collection, begging for recommendation, begging for reward." Chapter 117. Since the people from the Sky Sword Peak were also coming to participate in the Medicine King's grand meeting, Xiao Qun did not need to go to the 9 Firmaments Palace alone. He only needed to wait for the people from the Sky Sword Peak to arrive and return with them. After hearing these 2 pieces of news by chance, Xiao Qun decided to wait for 3 days in the city of the Medicine King's grand meeting. On one hand, he wanted to see what was so special about the Medicine King's grand meeting. On the other hand, he wanted to meet up with the people from the Sky Sword Peak. After disappearing for so long, Qin Shuru and his master must be worried sick. As a big city in the Heavenly Pill Prefecture, the number of alchemists in the city of the Medicine King was indeed high. Moreover, the city of the Medicine King was the territory of the Yao family, and the Yao family old ancestor was a heaven-grade alchemist. Moreover, he was also a main elder of the heavenly Dan Valley. Thus, the city of the Medicine King's reputation was resounding throughout the entire central divine region. Since he had nothing to do, Xiao Qun decided to take a stroll in the city of the King of Medicine. As a city where alchemists gathered, there was no lack of pharmacies in the city of the King of Medicine. Some herbs and pills that were hard to find in the outside world could be found in the city of the King of Medicine. Of course, the prices were also very expensive. After visiting more than 10 medicine shops, Xiao Qun also bought many medicinal pills for his cultivation. In just 4 to 6 hours, Xiao Qun had spent nearly 50,000 low-grade spirit stones. These spirit stones were given to him by Long Qing before he left. It was a total of 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. Of course, these spirit stones were also obtained from the kingdom of demonic beasts. He had no concept of spirit stones. For Xiao Qun, spirit stones were just decorations if he did not spend them. Only by transforming these resources into strength would he be able to make the best use of them. After a round of shopping, Xiao Qin found an inn to stay in. He cultivated while waiting for the Medicine King's grand meeting to begin. 3 days passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, only 1 day was left. On this day, the people from the major forces arrived at the city of the Medicine King one after another. Some of the ordinary forces naturally could not receive the hospitality of the Yao family. They could only find inns to stay in. As for the 7 overlords, the Yao family naturally treated them as distinguished guests. Along with the other forces, the people from the Sky Sword Peak rode a golden-winged roc and arrived at the city of the Medicine King at noon. Song Long led the group. In addition, there were 8 Sky Sword Peak disciples accompanying him. When the Sky Sword Peak's people arrived, they were naturally invited into the Yao family. At the same time, the Sky Sword Peak's people also came with the Baijian Peak's people. Their leader was a Baijian Peak elder, whose cultivation was much higher than Song Long's. Only the 2 peaks from 9 Firmaments Palace had arrived. As the first of the 7 great overlords to arrive, the Yao family's family head, Yao Ming, and the Yao family's young master, Yao Chongqing, personally appeared to welcome them. As the patriarch of the Yao family, Yao Ming's cultivation was at the great circle of the Dao Gate realm. As for Yao Chongqing, as the young patriarch of the Yao family, he was also a top-notch genius. He was only 20 years old and had already reached the profound Eon stage. The father and son appeared together. Yao Ming first bowed to the elder leading the Baijian Peak. "Elder Hong, you have worked hard." Elder Hong's name was Hong Gang. He was at the minor success stage of the Dao transformation realm. Although Song Long had successfully broken through to the Dao transformation realm in the past few months, there was still a big gap between him and Hong Gang. Yao Ming's attitude towards Hong Gang was very respectful. At the same time, Yao Chongqing came before a female disciple of the Baijian Peak with a smile on his face. Junior sister He Lian. Facing He Lian, Yao Chongqing's eyes flashed with infatuation. The two of them naturally knew each other. Also, He Lian was the same as Yao Chongqing. She was also a peak-level genius, and had been pursuing He Lian for a very long time. However, He Lian didn't seem to be interested in Yao Chongqing. He Lian's beautiful face. Facing Yao Chongqing's greeting, He Lian only nodded slightly and did not say anything. Her attitude towards Yao Chongqing was very cold. Seeing this, Yao Chongqing laughed helplessly and then turned his gaze to the people from the Sky Sword Peak. Compared to the Baijian Peak, the lineup of the Sky Sword Peak was somewhat lacking. Putting aside Song Long's cultivation, there was not a single genius among the disciples of the Sky Sword Peak. Not even the most ordinary of top geniuses were there. Originally, the Sky Sword Peak had a king of geniuses, Xiao Qin. However, it was rumored that Xiao Qin had fallen in the Myriad Beast mountain range. Therefore, the Sky Sword Peak had no geniuses to hold down the fort. Moreover, the most laughable thing was that as more and more geniuses appeared, the various major forces were fighting for the geniuses to join them. Take the 9 peaks of the 9 Firmaments Palace for example. In just a few months, the other 8 peaks had geniuses joining them. Moreover, there was more than one. Only the Sky Sword Peak did not have a single genius joining them after several months after Xiao Qin's fall. Not a single genius was willing to join the Sky Sword Peak. Additionally, the Sky Sword Peak had only just been established. Its foundation and strength were too weak. The 3 peak lords were only at the Dao Gate stage. They were not even comparable to the elders of the other peak. Due to this, the Sky Sword Peak had become a laughingstock in 9 Firmaments Palace. Song Long and the other 2 were both furious and helpless in the face of this situation. Having no geniuses brought about a huge problem. When they went out to participate in activities with other forces, none of the disciples of the Sky Sword Peak could be brought out. After all, this was the era of geniuses. Without geniuses, one would naturally have no right to speak. It was as though they had returned to the time when they were in the East Sword Pavilion. This was not the first time. Song Long fantasized. If Shao Chen was still alive and in the Sky Sword Peak, what would the Sky Sword Peak be like now? He did not dare to say anything else, but at least one or two geniuses would choose to join the Sky Sword Peak because of Shao Chen. Unfortunately, Shao Chen had already fallen. Yao Chongqing's eyes were filled with obvious contempt. His attitude was also a lot more indifferent. He bowed to Song Long and said indifferently, "Peak Lord Song Long, the accommodations have been prepared. Everyone, please take a rest." The Yao family had prepared a banquet for the Baijian Peak. However, the Yao family had chosen to ignore the Sky Sword Peak. Up until now, the Yao family head, Yao Ming, had not even greeted Song Long. With regards to the Yao family's actions, no one from the Baijian Peak stood up for the Sky Sword Peak. Elder Hong just casually bowed to Song Long and then left with Yao Ming. As for the people from the Sky Sword Peak, they were led to their accommodations by a servant of the Yao family. Naked contempt. No, this was already ignoring. Faced with such treatment, the 8 Sky Sword Peak disciples who followed Song Long all had ugly expressions on their faces. One of them even opened his mouth to speak. Snobs. Isn't it just 2 top geniuses? If Senior Shao Chen was still here, let's see if they would still dare to treat us like this. Please collect, recommend, reward. Chapter 118. At that moment, all the disciples remembered Shao Chen. When Shao Chen had been there, the Eastern Sword Pavilion had been majestic. Shao Chen had relied on his own strength to oppress the other 4 hidden dragons of the Dongyang region. Sigh, that's right. If senior brother Shao Chen was still alive, our Sky Sword Peak wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Another disciple sighed softly after hearing the disciple's words. The news that Shao Chen had died in the 10,000 Beasts mountain range was a huge blow to the Tianjian Peak. To put it bluntly, Shao Chen represented hope for the Tianjian Peak. He represented the hope that the Tianjian Peak could return to its former glory and be on par with the other 8 peaks. However, the hope of everyone had fallen in the 10,000 Beast mountain range. The disciples sighed. Song Long, who was walking in front, was the same. They believed that as long as Shao Chen was there, he would definitely be able to lead the Heavenly Sword Peak to glory, just like when they were in the Dongyang domain. Shao Chen had appeared out of nowhere and suppressed the 4 great hidden dragons. He had used his own strength to suppress the 4 great hidden dragons. If Shao Chen could do it in the Eastern Sun domain, Song Long believed that Shao Chen could do it in the Central Divine Realm as well. After all, Shao Chen was known as the only person who could be on par with Guduwia a few months ago. Now, Guduwia was recognized as the #1 king of pride in the Tianqian continent. Song Long sighed silently. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have allowed Shao Chen to go to the 10,000 Beasts mountain range. The Yao family had arranged for the Tianjian Peak to stay in a remote courtyard. As one of the 7 overlords, the Yao family had arranged for the Tianjian Peak to stay in a remote courtyard. Nobody came to visit them and nobody paid any attention to them. It seemed like the Tianjian Peak had been forgotten. As time passed, the other 7 overlords arrived one after another. The ruler of the continent of the 9 Clouds was from the 9 Clouds Palace, the ruler of Mu Tian was from the Mu clan, the ruler of 10,000 Weapons was from the 10,000 Weapons Pavilion, the ruler of Burning Sky was from the Burning Sky sect, the ruler of Heavenly Pellet was from the Heavenly Dan Valley, the ruler of Divine Talisman was from the Divine Talisman sect, and the ruler of Divination was from the Divination Hall. That night, the Yao family could be said to be a boiling cauldron of voices as they held an unprecedented grand gathering. Even the Yao family old ancestor showed up to participate in this gathering. The experts of the 7 overlords also gathered together. At the same time, for this gathering, each of them brought along their respective heavens' prides. Although they were basically all top-notch geniuses, the Mu clan had brought along a peerless genius named Mu Feng. There were more than 10 Heaven's Prides present. However, Mu Feng was the only peerless genius. As such, Mu Feng naturally became the focus of everyone's attention. According to the division of strength, the Heaven's Prides were divided into 3 categories: top-notch Heaven's Prides, peerless Heaven's Prides, and King of Heaven's Prides. Top-notch Heaven's Prides could only be considered as stepping into the dividing line of Heaven's Prides. As for peerless Heaven's Prides, they could be considered as the true Heaven's Prides. As for King of Heaven's Prides, that was the king that stood above all the other Heaven's Prides. In the entire heavenly Qin mainland, although many Heaven's Prides had appeared, there were still only 10 King of Heaven's Prides. Of course, the list of 10 King of Heaven's Prides had also changed. For example, Gu Lei and Su Mu had long since been kicked out of the list of 10 King of Heaven's Prides. Additionally, due to the rumor that Xiao Chen had fallen, he was also kicked out of the list of 10 King of Heaven's Prides. With no King of Heaven's Prides, peerless Heaven's Prides were undoubtedly the strongest. Thus, Mu Feng became the leader of the many Heaven's Prides present. The atmosphere was lively. However, no one invited the people from Sky Sword Peak. Even Baijian Peak, which was also part of 9 Firmaments Palace, did not invite the Sky Sword Peak. The banquet continued until late at night. During the banquet, no one thought about the Sky Sword Peak. Early the next morning, the Medicine King's Grand Meeting was held as scheduled. People from various major forces rushed towards the Yao family. The Medicine King's Grand Meeting was held at the Yao family's main square. As the overlord of the city of the Medicine King, the Yao family's mansion occupied a large area. Even if tens of thousands of people gathered together, it would not be crowded. At the Yao family's main square, a high platform had been built. The Yao family old ancestor, a group of Yao family's upper echelons and experts from the 7 overlord forces were seated on the high platform. Looking at the people on the high platform, the surrounding people quickly discovered a problem. There were no people from the Sky Sword Peak. Moreover, looking at the arrangement of the high platform, it seemed that the Yao family did not reserve a seat for the Sky Sword Peak. As one of the 9 peaks of the overlord forces, 9 Firmaments Palace, the Sky Sword Peak was not welcomed. They did not even have the qualifications to sit on the same level as the Yao family. This scene caused the crowd to discuss spiritedly. While the crowd was discussing, Song Long finally brought the Sky Sword Peak disciples to the main square. As soon as they appeared, the surrounding people pointed at them and whispered. Seeing that there was no seat for the Sky Sword Peak on the high platform, Song Long's face sank. At this time, Yao Ming also pretended to stand up and said, "Song Long Peak Master, I am really sorry. Due to the limited space, the Sky Sword Peak seat is really not available. I hope everyone from the Sky Sword Peak can understand. Of course, my Yao family will also compensate everyone from the Sky Sword Peak." Although it was an apology, there was no trace of guilt on his face. As for the compensation, when it came from Yao Ming's mouth, it was more like charity. Yao Ming did not give the Sky Sword Peak any face. Hearing this, everyone looked at Song Long, wanting to see how Song Long would respond. This was not giving any face at all. If Song Long tolerated it, the Sky Sword Peak's face would be completely lost. In that case, my Sky Sword Peak will not participate in this Medicine King's conference. Under everyone's gaze, Song Long coldly snorted. Since the Yao family humiliated the Sky Sword Peak in front of the major forces, Song Long naturally would not choose to tolerate it. However, just as Song Long's voice fell, the peerless genius of the Mu family, Mu Feng, suddenly spoke. His words were full of contempt. "You speak as if we are begging you to participate. Although the Sky Sword Peak is one of the 9 peaks of the 9 Firmaments Palace, it is only in name. I will not talk about the strength of the 3 peak masters. I will only ask one question. Does your Sky Sword Peak have any geniuses? You don't even have a peerless genius, Yet you still have the nerve to sit on the same level as us? What a joke! As a junior, Mu Feng's words were very unpleasant. Hearing this, Song Long's face turned even gloomier. However, his strength was inferior, so he could not do anything to Mu Feng. After all, there was still a Dao transformation stage elder of the Mu family sitting beside Mu Feng. Song Long was thoroughly humiliated, and the Sky Sword Peak didn't have any heaven's pride. Feeling the pitiful gazes of the surrounding people, Song Long only wanted to leave as soon as possible. However, at this moment, a white-clothed man holding a crimson longsword walked in with large strides. The tip of the sword was pressed against the throat of a Yao family guard. His gaze landed directly on Mu Feng as he spoke in an indifferent tone. Is the mouth of the Mu family so foul? Mu Qing is like this, and so are you. A mere peerless genius dares to speak such arrogant words? It would be better if your Mu family's king of prides came. Chapter 119. Holding a 3-foot-long sword, he strode into the main courtyard. Hearing this, Mu Feng's face sank. Do you want to die? The white-clothed young man was naturally Shao Chen. Today was the day of the Medicine King's conference, but who would have thought that an invitation was required to participate? Shao Chen did not have an invitation, so the guards outside did not allow him to enter. Left with no choice, Shao Chen could only fight his way in. Shao Chen had just arrived at the entrance of the main yard when he heard Mu Feng insulting the Tsang dragon, which led to the current scene. Perhaps because they did not react in time, when they saw Shao Chen holding a Yao family guard and striding in, no one recognized Shao Chen's identity. Mu Feng shouted coldly. Yao Chongqing also shouted angrily. Who are you? How dare you trespass into my Yao family? You are simply lawless. Men, take him down, Mu Feng and Yao Chongqing shouted one after another. But at this time, Song Long and the Sky Sword Peak disciples were stunned. They naturally recognized Shao Chen at a glance. They had always thought that Shao Chen had fallen in the Thousand Beast Mountain range. Now that they saw Shao Chen again, they naturally did not recover for a while. Only when Yao Chongqing ordered people to take Shao Chen did Song Long come back to his senses. Immediately, a terrifying aura rose from Song Long's body. He took a step forward and instantly arrived beside Shao Chen. He looked at Yao Chongqing on the high platform and shouted. You dare! Shao Chen was still alive, which made Song Long very happy. At the same time, Yao Chongqing's words instantly ignited Song Long's anger. It was no exaggeration to say that in the eyes of Song Long and the other two old men, anyone in the Sky Sword Peak could die except for Shao Chen. As long as Shao Chen was alive, the Sky Sword Peak would never fall. Therefore, at this time, when Yao Chongqing ordered people to take Shao Chen down, how could Song Long endure it? He was immediately enraged. Facing the furious Song Long, Yao Chongqing was slightly stunned. He thought to himself, is this old man crazy? He could endure the humiliation just now, but now he actually went crazy because of this kid. Yao Chongqing, Yao Ming, if you dare to touch my Sky Sword Peak's King of Pride, my Sky Sword Peak will definitely annihilate your entire Yao family. Ignoring Yao Chongqing's stunned expression, Song Long directly looked at Yao Ming and shouted, Sky Sword Peak's King of Pride? Hearing Song Long's words, Yao Chongqing was even more puzzled. How could this Sky Sword Peak have a King of Pride? They didn't even have a peerless genius. Yao Chongqing did not understand the meaning behind Song Long's words. However, he soon thought of something and stared intently at Shao Chen. After a few breaths, Yao Chongqing's expression changed drastically. He was not the only one. Many of the people present reacted the same way. Clearly, they had recognized Shao Chen's identity. Shao Chen's image had appeared in the sky when the sovereign had bestowed him with his name, and everyone had seen it. Shao Chen. Many people recognized Shao Chen. They didn't expect the Sky Sword Peak's King of Pride to still be alive. Wasn't it rumored that Shao Chen had died in the 10,000 Beast Mountain range? How could he still be alive? Xiao Chen's appearance shocked everyone. At the same time, it disgusted Mu Feng and Yao Chongqing, as if they had eaten a fly. Previously, they had said that the Sky Sword Peak was only in name, and did not have a peerless genius. But now, in the blink of an eye, the Sky Sword Peak had a king of pride. Mu Feng's expression was unsightly, but soon, he sneered. He looked at Xiao Chen and pretended to be disdainful. Xiao Chen, hee, rumor has it that you died in the 10,000 Beast Mountain range. But even if you're not dead, so what? The king of pride of the 4 great domains is only in appearance. Su Mu and Gu Lei have already been kicked out of the top 10 king of pride. Do you still think you're one of the top 10 king of pride? Su Mu and Gu Lei had been defeated by the peerless geniuses of the Central Divine Region. Mu Feng's purpose in saying this was to show that Xiao Chen was only in appearance, and that he did not deserve the title of King of Pride. Hearing Mu Feng's words, Xiao Chen calmly took a step forward. He first gave Song Long a reassuring look, then looked at Mu Feng and said indifferently, "All right, since that's the case, I, Xiao Chen, will challenge all the geniuses present here in front of everyone. You can all come at me together." Xiao Chen did not argue with Mu Feng. He decided to use his strength to do the talking. As soon as these words came out, everyone went crazy. What was going on? Xiao Chen wanted to challenge all the geniuses present, and they could all come at him together. This was simply crazy. One had to know that although everyone present was a peerless genius, and only Mu Feng was a peerless genius, there were 14 of them. Even if Xiao Chen was once the king of pride, wasn't this a little too arrogant? Moreover, Xiao Chen was not challenging them one by one, but all at once. In other words, Xiao Chen alone would have to fight more than 10 geniuses. No one had expected Xiao Chen to say such a thing. Mu Feng and Yao Chongqing's expressions turned ugly, while the 8 disciples of the Sky Sword Peak were extremely excited. No one knew who took the lead, but the 8 of them immediately shouted, "Senior brother Xiao Chen, senior brother Xiao Chen, senior brother Xiao Chen." Under the cheers of the Sky Sword Peak disciples, Xiao Chen pointed the tip of his sword at the ground. He looked at Mu Feng and said indifferently, "What, you don't dare? Didn't you just say that I'm only in appearance? Now that I've given you the chance, you don't dare to accept my challenge. Come on, all the geniuses present can attack. Today I, Xiao Chen, will sweep all of you away. My Sky Sword Peak doesn't have any geniuses, but we do have the King of Pride. Geniuses are just ants to my Sky Sword Peak." His words were filled with heroic spirit. One man and one sword, challenging all 14 geniuses present. However, in the face of Xiao Chen's bold words, none of the 14 geniuses present dared to reply. They all chose to remain silent. Looking at the geniuses who chose to remain silent, the various major forces present couldn't help but whisper to each other. Sweeping all the geniuses. Among those of the same generation, I'm afraid only the 10 King of Pride has such a heroic spirit. Is this the King of Pride? He is indeed the King of Geniuses. As geniuses, they can only bow their heads in front of the King of Pride. The Sky Sword Peak, which had already lost all face today, turned the tide because of Xiao Chen's appearance. Looking at Xiao Chen's back, one man and one sword, sweeping all the geniuses, Song Long's turbid eyes turned slightly red. He's back. My Sky Sword Peak's King of Pride is back. Even if I'm facing a dozen geniuses, I'll sweep them away with one sword. This is the domineering aura of the Sky Sword Peak's King of Pride, Xiao Chen. Just like when he was in the Eastern Sun region, one man and one sword, he suppressed the 4 great hidden dragons and the 4 great heads. Even Song Long was extremely excited, let alone the 8 Sky Sword Peak disciples. At this moment, their eyes were already brimming with tears. The sullenness of the past few months had vanished with Xiao Chen's appearance. Who asked you to be so arrogant? Now that our Sky Sword Peak's King of Pride is here, why isn't anyone venting their anger? Didn't you just mock our Sky Sword Peak for not having any geniuses? The 8 Sky Sword Peak disciples all had such thoughts as they stared at Xiao Chen. Chapter 120. Xiao Chen's overbearingness had exceeded everyone's expectations. Even the experts of the older generation on the high platform had not expected Xiao Chen to be so overbearing. None of the Sky Prides responded to Xiao Chen. Seeing that, Xiao Chen pointed his sword at Mu Feng and shouted, "Mu Feng, do you dare to fight me?" With that shout, Xiao Chen had effectively cut off Mu Feng's path of retreat. If Mu Feng did not dare to accept the challenge, he would become a laughingstock. He might even lose his title as a peerless genius. What was a genius? A genius? If one did not even have the courage to fight, what qualifications did one have to be called a genius? Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Mu Feng's face darkened to the extreme. Next, he exchanged glances with Yao Chongqing, who was beside him. Mu Feng then shouted, "Arrogant! Everyone, this Xiao Chen is so arrogant. If we do not teach him a lesson today, how can we still be called geniuses?" What a joke! Mu Feng's words sounded righteous. However, everyone knew that he did not have the courage to face Xiao Chen alone. He wanted to drag all the other geniuses down with him. Understanding Mu Feng's intentions, Xiao Chen did not say anything about it. Instead, he simply smiled disdainfully. Under Mu Feng's instigation, the other geniuses began to speak up as well. After all, Xiao Chen had included all of them in his words earlier. With the exception of Baijian Peak's Helian, the other 13 geniuses came to surround Xiao Chen. The reason Helian did not take action was because both Baijian Peak and Heavenly Sword Peak were part of 9 Firmament's palace. Additionally, Helian also wanted to see just how extraordinary Xiao Chen was. Her beautiful eyes were filled with curiosity as she looked at Xiao Chen. Since Xiao Chen's appearance, Helian's gaze had never left him. Xiao Chen's handsome appearance and indifferent aura seemed to have a magical power that attracted Helian, making her involuntarily fall for him. Looking at the battle that was about to break out, Helian whispered softly, "Can we win?" He asked himself if Xiao Chen could win if he was besieged by 13 geniuses at the same time. While Helian was paying attention to Xiao Chen, Mu Feng shouted and the 13 Sky Prides immediately attacked Xiao Chen. They didn't have the confidence to fight him one-on-one. After all, Xiao Chen was the only genius other than Guduwuya who had broken through the 9 heavens' divine thunder. Therefore, Xiao Chen was naturally not an ordinary person. Even if he couldn't win one-on-one, they didn't believe that Xiao Chen could win if it was 13 against 1. Even if he was once known as the Proud King, Xiao Chen had disappeared for several months. Did he really have the strength of a proud king? After all, Su Mu and Gu Lei had been forcefully kicked out of the Proud King list. The 13 Sky Prides attacked at the same time. Seeing this, Xiao Chen's expression remained unchanged. He immediately swept out with the Scarlet Cloud sword in his hand. Sword light flashed and instantly enveloped 3 of the Sky Prides. Fast, extremely fast. In the past few months, Xiao Chen's cultivation had not only broken through from the Arcane Aeon initial success stage to the Arcane Aeon small perfection stage, but his sword chi had also successfully reached the Great Perfection stage. He was only one step away from comprehending sword intent. With the addition of sword intent, the sword light whizzed past. Before it even came into contact, the Sky Prides already felt a fatal threat. Without any hesitation, they all chose to dodge. And it was this dodge that happened to fall into Xiao Chen's trap. He moved his feet and instantly used the clear shadow step. His figure immediately rushed towards the Sky Prides who were busy dodging. They were already busy dodging Xiao Chen's sword chi. Now that they were faced with Xiao Chen's sudden attack, their movements were in a mess. Unsurprisingly, they were quickly defeated by Xiao Chen. However, he had already defeated 3 Sky Prides at the beginning of the fight. Seeing this, many people couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. So strong, Xiao Chen's strength was indeed very strong. Moreover, as the battle continued, Xiao Chen's terrifying physical strength was on full display. The blood pill condensed from 3 drops of the Beast Emperor's blood essence had allowed Xiao Chen's physical body to reach the limit of the arcane Aeon stage. Based on the strength of his physical body alone, Xiao Chen could be considered a peerless sky pride. He was no weaker than those body-refining cultivators. Relying on his powerful physical body, Xiao Chen was like a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus as he rampaged through the crowd. For some of the attacks that weren't fatal, Xiao Chen didn't even bother dodging. He directly chose to exchange injury for injury. It was an extremely violent and direct way of fighting. Xiao Chen dared to exchange injury for injury, but the Sky Prides didn't. After all, they didn't have a physical body as strong as Xiao Chen's. After an intense battle, the Sky Prides became more and more alarmed as they fought. The same thought emerged in their minds. Is this the strength of the King of Pride? He's so strong. He's on a completely different level. His physical body? He's practically a monster in human form. After Xiao Chen defeated 7 geniuses, the remaining geniuses all subconsciously chose to retreat. They did not dare to do it again. They really did not dare to do it again. They didn't have any grudges to begin with. Now that Xiao Chen's combat strength was so strong, these Sky Prides weren't fools. There was no need for them to bite the bullet and risk their lives against Xiao Chen. Everyone chose to retreat. Xiao Chen didn't chase after them. Only Mu Feng and Yao Chongqing remained. Xiao Chen didn't intend to let them go. Xiao Chen took a step forward and arrived directly in front of Yao Chongqing. He flicked the long sword in his hand, and the tip of the sword slashed across Yao Chongqing's shoulder. Yao Chongqing screamed as a wound opened up on his shoulder. Then, Xiao Chen kicked out, and Yao Chongqing was sent flying, crashing into the wall of the Yao family's main courtyard before coming to a stop. The Jian Yi kick had seriously injured Yao Chongqing. After Yao Chongqing was dealt with, only Mu Feng was left. As a peerless monster, Mu Feng's strength was naturally stronger than Yao Chongqing's. But to Xiao Chen, it didn't matter. No one dared to attack Xiao Chen anymore. Only Mu Feng was left. Facing Xiao Chen's attacks, Mu Feng was suffering. Xiao Chen's sword was not only fast, but also terrifyingly powerful. He was completely at a disadvantage. He was completely suppressed by Xiao Chen. In the end, as expected, Mu Feng was stabbed by Xiao Chen's sword. Then, everyone only saw a flash of sword light. The scarlet-edged sword was already at Mu Feng's neck. Just an inch more, and Xiao Chen would be able to cut off Mu Feng's head. The aura of death completely enveloped Mu Feng's body. Xiao Chen didn't kill him. After all, the Mu family's experts were still around. But today, the Sky Sword Peak's reputation had been ruined. Xiao Chen wouldn't let Mu Feng go so easily. Xiao Chen kicked Mu Feng in the knee. The excruciating pain caused Mu Feng to kneel before Xiao Chen with both knees on the ground. Xiao Chen looked down at Mu Feng from above and said with an indifferent expression, "You dare to insult my Sky Sword Peak? In front of me, you are no different from an ant. Do you understand? Remember, the next time your Mu family wants to insult my Sky Sword Peak, you better let the Mu family's King of Pride come personally. Trash like you is not enough." Chapter 121. You're not worthy. Ask your Mu family's King of Pride to come. Xiao Chen's indifferent words echoed in Mu Feng's ears. Mu Feng's face was filled with anger. In the end, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. It could be said that Mu Feng's reputation had been completely wiped out. Xiao Chen looked at the unconscious Mu Feng and slowly sheathed the scarlet-edged sword. At the same time, the elder of the Mu clan on the high platform shouted coldly, "Humph, arrogant junior. You're courting death." The Mu family elder was at the Dao transformation stage, but Xiao Chen did not show any fear. Instead, he said calmly, "What's wrong? Is the elder here after beating up the younger one?" Mu Feng's humiliation naturally represented the Mu family's humiliation, which was why the elder of the Mu family spoke up. Hearing Xiao Chen's rebuttal, the elder of the Mu family's face became even more gloomy. A wave of minor perfection Dao transformation realm spiritual energy erupted from his body. His eyes narrowed slightly as he stared at Xiao Chen and said word by word, "Xiao Chen, do you know the consequences of angering the Mu family?" Xiao Chen's humiliation to the Mu family had made the Mu family elder want to kill him. As soon as the Mu family elder finished speaking, Song Long stepped in front of Xiao Chen and looked directly at the Mu family elder. It's a little embarrassing for the Mu family to bully the younger generation. Anyone could feel the faint murderous intent emanating from the elder of the Mu family, so Song Long immediately stepped forward to protect Xiao Chen. Upon hearing Song Long's words, the elder from the Mu clan did not reply. Instead, he stared deeply at Xiao Chen before slowly withdrawing the aura from his body. He then ordered his men to carry the unconscious Mu Feng away. After that, he no longer spoke. Xiao Chen was the king of pride of the Celestial Sword Peak. It was said that the Nine Clouds sovereign thought highly of Xiao Chen. Therefore, the Mu family elder knew that he couldn't kill Xiao Chen, at least not in front of so many people. With his strength, if he insisted on killing Xiao Chen, Song Long would not be able to stop him. However, if Xiao Chen died, then the ruler of the continent of the Nine Clouds would definitely come and punish him. At that time, the two overlords would start a war, or the Mu family elder would hand him over to the ruler of the continent. Anyway, no matter what, he would die. Therefore, even though the Mu family elder's murderous intent, he didn't attack. Even the Mu family elder had chosen to endure, so the Yao family elder didn't say anything. After all, they were not as strong as the Mu family elder. The Yao family also chose to remain silent, but Xiao Chen obviously didn't intend to leave the matter at that. His gaze fell directly on the Yao family patriarch Yao Ming, and said in an indifferent tone, "Yao family patriarch, just now you said that the space is limited, so there is no need for us to arrange a seat for the Sky Sword Peak. So there is no need to trouble yourself, just give your Yao family seat to us. My Sky Sword Peak will not care about this." The Yao family elder wanted to make things difficult for the Celestial Sword Peak. Therefore, Xiao Chen wanted to sit on the Celestial Sword Peak stage and make the Yao family elder roll off the stage. Xiao Chen's words were very straightforward, and the meaning was also very obvious. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, the Yao family head's face immediately sank. "What do you mean? Xiao Chen wanted to drive the Yao family off the stage?" As the host, Xiao Chen actually dared to drive the Yao family off the stage? With a gloomy face, Yao Ming replied coldly, "Xiao Chen, don't go too far. I admit that my Yao family was negligent in this matter, but we are willing to compensate for it. Don't be so aggressive." Aggressive? Yao family elder, you just said that this was your Yao family's negligence. Since that's the case, isn't it reasonable for your Yao family to give up your seat to us? Moreover, look at the people sitting on the stage. Which one of them isn't a member of an overlord force? Only your Yao family is a small family in the city. The strongest person in your family is only at the Dao transformation stage. In the younger generation, you only have Yao Chongqing, a waste. If the Mu family has a king of pride that I am interested in, then what does your Yao family have? So, what right does your Yao family have to be on equal footing with us, the overlord forces? When he heard Yao Ming's words, Xiao Chen shouted loudly. He was completely unafraid of Yao Ming's status. Of course, a mere Yao family elder was not enough to make Xiao Chen care. These words were like a slap in the face. Yao Ming looked at Xiao Chen with a face full of anger. In response, Xiao Chen calmly looked back at him. Those who humiliate others will be humiliated by others. It was a very simple principle. If your Yao family wanted to humiliate my Sky Sword Peak, then I will naturally humiliate your Yao family. Not knowing how to refute Xiao Chen's words, the Yao family elder, who was sitting on one side of the Heaven Dan Valley, finally spoke. Yao Ming, take your people and leave. As an elder of the Heaven Dan Valley, the Yao family elder naturally sat together with the people of the Heaven Dan Valley. The elder personally spoke. Hearing this, Yao Ming's face sank. As the organizer, he was actually driven off the high platform. His face was ashen, but Yao Ming did not say anything in the end. He led the people of the Yao family down the high platform, while Shao Chen, Song Long, and the people of the Sky Sword Peak sat on the seats of the Yao family. No one would have thought that the final result would be like this. The Sky Sword Peak, which was supposed to lose face, had actually made the Yao family unable to show their face. Yao Ming led his people down the high platform. At this time, the Yao family elder also took the initiative to apologize to Song Long Peak Master. I hope you can forgive me for today's matter. From the beginning, no one paid attention to the Yao family elder, but now, the Yao family elder personally apologized, and his attitude was extremely respectful and sincere. All these changes were brought about by Shao Chen. In the face of the Yao family elder's apology, Song Long nodded and did not make things difficult for him. The matter seemed to have come to an end, but the hatred in Yao Chongqing's eyes grew stronger. Then, accompanied by Yao Ming's opening speech, the Medicine King's Grand Meet officially began. Although it was called the Medicine King's Grand Meet, it was more like an auction, except that the items being auctioned were some spiritual herbs or elixirs. Of course, the elixirs and spiritual herbs in the Medicine King's Grand Meet were relatively rare in the outside world. Today was the day of the auction, but tomorrow there was a highlight, and that was the Deputy Valley Master of the Heaven Dan Valley coming to the city of the Medicine King to recruit disciples. The Heaven Dan Valley had a total of 9 Deputy Valley Masters, and their cultivation was at the Tao Sovereign Realm, equivalent to the 9 Peak Masters of the 9 Cloud Palace. They were extremely powerful, and their status was only below the 7 great rulers. The attraction of such a powerhouse coming to recruit disciples was needless to say. Many of the forces present had just come because they had heard the news in advance. It could be said that today's auction was just an appetizer, and tomorrow's disciple recruitment was the real main course. Once chosen, it was absolutely like a crow turning into a phoenix, and one could become a disciple of a Tao sovereign expert in one step. Chapter 122. With the exception of the disciples from the 7 overlord forces, the disciples from the other forces were all looking forward to the disciple recruitment. Shao Chen sat on a chair with nothing to do as he watched the medicinal pills being auctioned off. Truth be told, the medicinal pills were not bad. However, he did not need them for the time being. Since he did not need them, he was not interested in them. The other disciples from Heavenly Sword Peak, on the other hand, bought some medicinal pills one after another. Seeing them compete with each other, Shao Chen smiled. It seemed that after arriving at 9 Firmament's palace, their lives had improved considerably. They also had a lot more spirit stones in their pockets. In the past, when they were still in the Eastern Sun region, the disciples would only be able to spend a few hundred low-grade spirit stones. Now, however, they could casually spend over 1,000 low-grade spirit stones. Of course, such a change could not be separated from 9 Firmament's palace's support. Heavenly Sword Peak had just returned to 9 Firmament's palace. Its strength could be said to be at the bottom of the 9 peak. Compared to the other 8 peaks, it was far inferior. As such, the ruler of the continent of the 9 Firmaments hoped that Heavenly Sword Peak could grow as quickly as possible. Thus, when it came to cultivation resources, the ruler of the continent of the 9 Firmaments would naturally favor Heavenly Sword Peak, especially Tsang Long, Tsang Xian, and Tsang Yun. The ruler of the continent of the 9 Firmaments hoped that they could break through to the Tao Transformation stage, Tao King stage, or even Tao Sovereign stage as soon as possible. Under normal circumstances, the 9 peak lords of 9 Firmaments Palace were all Tao Sovereigns. Tsang Xian and the other two's cultivation bases were simply too low. They were even inferior to the elders of the other 8 peaks. This could not go on. There was no need to worry about cultivation resources for now. It could even be said that Heavenly Sword Peak's cultivation resources had surpassed the other 8 peaks due to the ruler of the continent of the 9 firmaments. However, such a situation would not last for long. Thus, the disciples of Heavenly Sword Peak had to make use of this golden period to increase their overall strength as soon as possible. A faint smile appeared on his face as he thought about the Heavenly Sword Peak. Xiao Chen did not notice that not far away, a pair of beautiful eyes had not left him since the beginning. She had been sizing him up with a thoughtful expression. Helian, a genius from Baijian Peak. After witnessing Xiao Chen defeat 13 geniuses with her own eyes, Helian could not help but fall in love with Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen had a handsome appearance, an ethereal temperament, an indifferent attitude, and a terrifying strength. All of these added together made Xiao Chen an irresistible attraction. Ever since she was young, Helian had seen many geniuses. However, until now, none of them could compare to Xiao Chen. No matter in which aspect, Xiao Chen had become Helian's dream lover. Xiao Chen didn't notice Helian's infatuated gaze. While he was idling around, a pill called the 100 Years Pill was brought up for auction. There were 2 pills in total, and the starting price was 2,000 low-grade spirit stones. Seeing these 200-years-old pills, Xiao Chen's interest was finally piqued. These 100-years-old pills were useless to him, but they were extremely useful to his parents. Xiao Qing and Bai Ryue's cultivation talent could only be considered ordinary, so even though Xiao Chen had given them a lot of cultivation resources, the 2 of them were only at the Earth Clear Mirror entry stage. As the name implied, these 100-years-old pills could increase a person's lifespan. As for his parents, Xiao Chen didn't need them to have strong combat strength. He only wanted them to live a long life. Whenever he thought of his parents turning into a pile of yellow soil one day, Xiao Chen felt extremely reluctant. Therefore, pills that could increase one's lifespan were better for Xiao Chen. He didn't need them, but he could give them to his parents. Xiao Chen wanted them to live a long life. It was best if the family could never be separated. Without any hesitation, Xiao Chen opened his mouth after a small faction's patriarch bid 5,000. 10,000, he directly doubled the price. Xiao Chen wouldn't frown if he was buying things for himself. Xiao Chen didn't care about the price when he was buying things for his parents. In Xiao Chen's opinion, even if he had to pay 100,000 low-grade spirit stones today, he would obtain these 200-years-old pills. He was determined to obtain them. In the end, after a round of bidding, Xiao Chen finally bought the 200-years-old pills at the price of 30,000 low-grade spirit stones. He carefully stored them in his storage ring. When he had time to return to Lingshan City, he would give them to his parents. A smile unconsciously appeared on his face. Xiao Chen did not bid for the rest of the auction. The auction continued until dusk, when it finally ended. After that, the Yao family arranged a banquet and invited people from all the major forces to gather in one place. The banquet was held in the Yao family's main square. Maids quickly arranged the tables, chairs, bowls, and chopsticks. Ordinary factions ate in the main courtyard, while the 7 overlord factions, as well as the host, the Yao family, ate in the main hall. No one looked down on the Sky Sword Peak anymore. They sat down with Song Long and the others and ate the delicacies meticulously prepared by the Yao family. No one was interested in chatting with others. However, at this time, Helian, who was wearing a long green dress, took the initiative to approach Xiao Chen. Helian was the only female Heaven's Pride who came this time, so she naturally received a lot of attention. Moreover, she was also a beauty. At this time, seeing Helian take the initiative to approach Xiao Chen, the other Heaven's Prides, who originally had fantasies about Helian, all revealed a helpless smile. If it wasn't for the incident during the day, these Heaven's Prides would definitely not give up. However, after experiencing Xiao Chen's strength, they didn't dare to provoke Xiao Chen. Moreover, anyone could see that Helian already had a good impression of Xiao Chen. Wasn't fighting with Xiao Chen the same as lighting a lamp in the toilet? Wasn't that courting death? Taking the initiative to approach Xiao Chen, He Lian blushed and said softly, "That? Senior brother Xiao Chen, can I sit here?" She was obviously a little shy. Hearing this, Xiao Chen smiled and said, "Sure." Happily sitting down beside Xiao Chen, He Lian constantly tried to find a topic to chat with Xiao Chen. However, throughout the entire process, although Xiao Chen appeared to be very approachable, he gave off an unapproachable feeling. Xiao Chen didn't have any feelings for He Lian. Although she was pretty, she was still far from Qin Shuru, who had awakened the Yin spirit body. Xiao Chen naturally wouldn't be charmed by her appearance. The atmosphere of the banquet was extraordinarily lively. Song Long was also invited to drink with the powerhouses of the 7 major forces, while Xiao Chen and He Lian chatted casually. Just as everyone was enjoying themselves, Mu Feng and Yao Chongqing gathered together in Mu Feng's room with gloomy expressions. Mu Feng looked at Yao Chongqing and said coldly, "Xiao Chen, I will not let you off." Due to their injuries and perhaps because they were too ashamed to face others, Mu Feng and Yao Chongqing didn't attend the banquet today. Their hearts were filled with hatred as if they couldn't wait to swallow Xiao Chen alive. Facing Mu Feng's cold scolding, Yao Chongqing's eyes flickered with a sinister glint. "Don't worry, brother Mu. I have already thought of a way to humiliate Xiao Chen. Please add, recommend, reward." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.